Crashing through the lies and disinformation, it's Alex Jones.
It was just 2 weeks ago that I got Paul Watson and Mike Adams on the phone, two really smart guys, and I said, the president needs our help, and America and the world needs our help. It falls to us. No one else has written a report on the full spectrum of the strangulation of free speech, not just here in the U.S., but in Europe. It's being used to bring in this global tyranny. We have history on our side. We have the facts. And we can get this report directly into the president's hands, which within 1 day of it being published, the president was still in Europe, and it was delivered to him on Air Force One. And the president did read the report. Now, the report was also given to Congressman Gates, directly to him, and we asked him to expose the fact that I did not say anybody did not die at Parkland, and that they were shadow banning everybody, including members of Congress. He responded by throwing me under the bus and saying that I did say nobody died, and that companies have a right to ban and restrict whoever they want. Just don't promote killing congressmen. Remember those hearings last Tuesday? And then they shadow banned him. They took that as a green light. And every other Republican in Congress, other than John McCain. The president and Congress were all watching that hearing where the Republicans and Democrats made fools of themselves and had circles run around them by the heads of the tech companies. But there were other people watching, and they were reading our report that was all bibliographed, and they're taking action on our report. So censor me, shut me down, whatever you're going to try. We just blew another Death Star. Let me tell you, the dominoes are going down on this now. Let me tell you, I don't know. Everybody knows I'm always on to the next battle, and I don't get euphoria over wins. I don't get dopamine injections, mentally. But I'm feeling really good right now. I was sitting here going over all this morning, and it hit me that we fired torpedoes down the reactor shaft, folks. You did it again. Paul Watson did it. Mike Adams did it. This whole crew did it. God did it. And I am just so happy because I can look at the tea leaves here. Yeah. I mean, you're in a war. Use a naval, Coral Sea analogy, and you've been looking for the Japanese for days, and they've been finding you and attacking you, and finally it's getting dark, but your planes find the Japanese task force, and you just start blowing their ships up politically. We're not saying we're going to blow up Japanese ships. The media will put that out. It's an allegory. And I mean, right now, we had just found them. We just got over them. And one big bomb, the first bomb we dropped in the info war to expose this internet takeover, to expose the stealth, to expose how they're pushing it, how they're implementing it. The first bomb we dropped went right into the magazine of their main carrier, and it just mushroomed. I mean, it is spectacular. Now, quite frankly, shrapnel just hit my plane. I got smoke coming out the back, and I got a concussion. The explosion was so big. But I'm feeling real good with blurred political vision as I try to fly back and find my carrier. Because I'm telling you, we just dropped a huge bomb right into the heart of their operation. You notice Facebook stock is plunging right now. I'm going to explain why that's happening when we come back. Okay, stop. Massive endorphin flood. Whoa. Oh, my God. My brain, my guts, my soul is saying, good job. God's saying, good job. I can feel it right now. Can't you feel it? I'm going to explain how devastating this is to the enemy. Oh, and the impeachment process has begun against Rosenstein as well. Yeah. Direct hit. You can pull up the article from a week and a half ago on Infowars.com by Paul Joseph Watson. It's titled Emergency Report to the President and Congress Concerning the Discovered Blueprint for Total Internet Censorship and the end of free speech in the United States and worldwide being carried out by stealth by major tech giants. There's also another posting that just has the Mike Adams report in it, titled Emergency Report, the Censorship Master Plan Decoded. And if you scroll down, you can see right there the report. The Censorship Master Plan Decoded that was delivered to the President of the United States about 8 days ago. There it is. And right on time, we put the report out on a Friday. Right on time, they had the hearings the next Tuesday and admitted it all. And Congress then went and looked and found out all the Republicans were shadow banned, except for John McCain, and that all the Democrats were being promoted. And the president found out that he was shadow banned. Finally, I got the report to the president, thanks to Patriots, and I'll leave it at that. But let's just say General Kelly isn't too happy. He'll be gone in about 4 days, we're told, 5 days. So, yes, I think the Patriots are in the hen house, aren't they? The Foxes don't like that too much. The farmer is getting back into the White House. The farmer don't like foxes with little hens. So, you see what's going on, ladies and gentlemen. And you see what's happening. We've got our big petition up. It's getting a lot of attention to stop shadow banning at change.org. We're going to be breaking that down. But you're not going to be told about the victories we're having. They're not going to be told about the victories you're having. In fact, you're going to see intensified attacks on Infowars because there is literal and figurative bounties on this operation and on yours truly. They have taken the level of lies to a new level that I'm going to be breaking down today as well. Forbes and others are reporting that my YouTube videos were taken down and they're set to ban the channel. It's a big national news story to set the precedent because I attacked a 11-year-old child and that I threw them to the ground. Now, this is just completely insane and not true, but they know because the video was taken down. They know because the video was taken down that, oh, people can't see it. So we can just say whatever we want. And now the new thing is he endangers children. I bet Congressman Gates will have another hearing in a few months, and he'll Facebook and Twitter and YouTube will say, yes, Jones beats children up on video. And Gates will say, well, that's terrible. We'll have to ban him immediately. Until he found out he was shadow banned. And, of course, it's not true. We showed the viral video that had been all over national news of a teenager attacking an adult, and the adult finally pushes him down on the ground. Then he gets back up and actually isn't hurt. So everybody else can have that video. We can't show it to you, even though it's all on ABC, NBC, CBS News. But then we get banned, and then they tell you that I beat up a child. So lies on lies on lies. And I'll have somebody probably walk up on the street and go, how dare you beat up that 11-year-old? I'll be like, I didn't. Shut up, Russian! You're going to prison, Russian! Well, I'm not a Russian agent. I didn't push a kid to the ground. I showed a video that was on ABC News National. They had big headlines in Rolling Stone. You know, this video is causing an internet debate. Was it right that this kid had been beating people up out in the parking lot, attacking adults, and punched this man in the face 3 times, and the adult pushes him down? And they go, no, discipline's never right. So, that's what they're doing, folks. And it's just like they say, Trump says he hates all Mexicans and they're all rapists. There's no video of that. He said there are a lot of criminals coming across the border. We got to vet who's coming across. There are a lot of criminals, some of them rapists. That turns into all Mexicans are rapists. It's just not true. They misrepresent everything. I say it's an allegory, you know, a political analogy of we're at high noon with Robert Mueller and the globalists and the deep state, and it's a death battle. That's what they call it. That doesn't mean a literal death battle. It means no quarter to the end. And so I said, I'm here at high noon, you know, pew, pew, pew. They go, Jones said he's going to kill him and, you know, blah, blah, blah. When the last thing I'd want is Mueller to be turned into a martyr. I want him to be absolutely discredited along with the whole deep state and defeated and return our republic and have prosperity and justice again and the good name at the FBI back. That's what I want, but see, they misrepresent everything. And you always notice it's real blurry video on CNN or MSNBC, and they'll show it on a screen behind them to cover the jump cut edits. Amazing. And, of course, Facebook and YouTube look at it and they go, well, actually, he didn't say he's literally going to do it. He said it was figurative. Just like when I said earlier, exposing internet censorship and having a real national debate about it will bring it down. It's like blowing up the Death Star, victory for the rebels. I'm not looking for a Death Star. I don't think it's real. I'm not going to blow it up. I'm playing spaghetti Western music in the background saying, Mueller, we're going to take you down high noon in the information war politically. We're going to, you know, I mean, that's like, again, like seeing a football game, the Red River Shootout, where UT and Oklahoma meet halfway in Dallas from Oklahoma City or Norman and Austin, and they meet in Dallas at the Cotton Bowl, and they go, there's the big Red River Shootout. Pew, pew, pew. People even have little toy, you know, rubber guns and stuff. Pew, pew, pew. We're not actually going to shoot anybody. But this is how they deceive you. Headline, Jones endangered a child. Jones beat up a little boy. Kid wasn't beat up. Happened in, what, Indiana? I had nothing to do with it. It's been on national news, but see, they know you're reading their article and they won't show you the video because it's been taken down, even though it turns out they had the video. But Forbes and others say, I beat up the little boy. The 11-year-old punk that's running around, reportedly beat up other kids, was attacking adults, starts punching this guy in the face 3 times. The guy finally pushes him down. And now because of that, I am facing the end of my free speech. That is hoaxing. That is fraud. That is mainstream media. Now, let me stop right there. Let me give you the gigantic trillion-ton enchilada here. We're going to come back from break and get into it all. No one had written a comprehensive blueprint of the tech companies and their admissions with exhibits, video, audio, text, internal documents, Google documents, we've got it all, about how they were going to first shut down Infowars and then set the precedent to ban everybody else. And now today, they're saying, we want Fox News banned. The Democratic Party, major public events are happening, and they're officially now calling for Fox to be banned off the internet. See, there's no end to this. They want the president banned on Twitter. He's already shadow banned. So the fact that we got our report to the president, 50-something pages, Mike Adams, Paul Watson did a lot of legwork, put out the articles. You did the legwork as listeners and viewers in the game, on the field, in the arena, and we just had a huge victory because no one had a blueprint till then. So every member of that board, every member of that House Judiciary had a hardcover delivered to them. We had it delivered to their offices. We made phone calls ourselves. We told listeners and put a list of their emails out and said, hit all of them and every member of Congress. I made sure it got to the president. They're good patriots that are listening right now. I'm not going to even say where. I'm not going to say what area. But I contacted 3 sources, connected closely to the president, and 2 of them said, we got it to him. One of them gave me the specifics. So the president had it delivered into his hands on Air Force One, just as I envisioned. Again, it's not that hard to win if you take action and you have the research and do the work. And now the dominoes are falling because they started massively censoring Congress the next week, right on time, proving it all. And now they've got the lawmakers pissed and ready to act. By the way, I've been having some celebratory breakdown here that Congress is finally waking up. America's waking up to how we're being censored, the takeover plan. They've been doing it incrementally, so we were like a frog in boiling water, but now it's reached boil. We either get out or we die. We lose the First Amendment like Europe's lost their free speech. That said, YouTube has banned us live streaming, not just on channels that Infowars runs, but even sub-channels that crew members set up that we'd used as backups. So they're not even following their own rules at this point. They do not want us reaching millions of people every week over live streams on YouTube. They want us shut down ahead of 2018. The election's only 3 months out. Folks, I have a stack of news of congressional candidates, of congressmen, of congresswomen who are putting out their campaign videos on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube and being banned. Okay? Members of Congress, where they're shooting shotguns and talking about their family, or where it's a grandma, a congresswoman from Tennessee talking about her grandkids, and talking about how they're endorsed by the NRA. It's all being banned. And they're setting the precedent with Alex Jones. And I watched Congressman Gates. He was briefed on this by, I'm sure everybody can guess who. The guy that helped get him elected, Roger Stone, and myself. And we tried to get Gates to champion this. It's super popular. It's constitutional. It's important. It's critical. He didn't have to sit there and defend me. He just had to go, wait a minute. You had to restore Alex Jones's channel. Turned out he didn't say nobody died at Parkland. That was fake. Plus, he'd have the right to do that if he wanted to, but he didn't. No, he knew all that. And he kissed their butt in the meeting and said, as long as you don't let them say kill Republicans, you're allowed to take off whoever you want. You're a private corporation. Well, they never advertised themselves as that. They advertised as a utility. The CIA helped set up Google. This is how people communicate now. So you're saying we just don't have access, like Jews didn't have access in Nazi Germany to the market at first. That's how the censorship starts. So there he was chairing the committee. We got a report to the president. We got the report to him. He knew. And then he found out he was shadow banned, along with all the other Republicans that checked. You've been banned for a long time. I know your dad's a billionaire and, you know, you're richy rich and everything. That's fine, dude. But now you have to become self-made. You have to defend the country. You can't just sit up there and slime around with the Democrats and think you're going to be left alone with the takeover of the internet and that you won't be censored. And by the way, that's the calculation dumbass made. That's the calculation he made. Is that, oh, they'll let them get the Joneses and the Drudges of the world. We'll be okay. We'll go along with this. We'll be left online. That's what they told everybody. That's what they've told all the other Ben Shapiro's of the world. Now they're getting censored. No! They eat you last, fools. Matt Drudge gets this. He's the only guy that would even report the truth 3 months ago when they banned our YouTube channel and put a bunch of strikes on it and froze it. And we couldn't show you the real videos on the channel, and they said a bunch of things I didn't say. But Drudge linked to our videos, and they got 14 million views on Infowars.com. And everybody went, wow, you didn't say they were crisis actors or nobody died. You said that the police stood down, which we broke. It was little kids saying it. That hadn't been in the news yet. They didn't want that out. That's why they banned our YouTube channel, froze it 3 days after, because they didn't want it out. The police stood down, which is now confirmed. So see, have their cake and eat it too. Say I said something I didn't say, set the precedent to ban free speech, and then strangle the free speech, and then strangle everybody else's free speech. The really big news is in the next segment, because I'm going to explain why Facebook is plunging, and I said this was coming. And we have the exclusive of why it's plunging and who's going to plunge next. How low will it go? When it was low, it's 20 points down. Now it's 18% down. He's lost $16+ billion today. By the way, Zuckerberg is not a big a villain as Apple. They are the really wicked people. When it comes to real evil action with China and oppressing their workers and everything, they are just uber bad hombres. And I'm not trying to just say Zuckerberg's some angel cake. They've already been censoring us. So his claim that, oh, I'm not taking Alex Jones down, he still has free speech, that's bull. It's like saying, oh, we're not putting you in prison, we're just putting you on house arrest in a jail cell the size of a bathroom. They're already censoring everybody 90+%. I told everybody this. Coming up next segment, I'm going to break down what's really happening. But the result, I should have opened the broadcast up with this. The result of our report, getting the president and Congress, the big tech giants arrogantly accelerating their censorship from, 50, 60% of conservative posts being blocked or shadow banned to now it's over 90% because they're scared they're going to lose the election in the battle to take back Congress so they can defeat our beachhead and start impeachment process. Trump now understands he's been shadow banned. In the report, it explains how he's banned and gives him websites he can go to, or staff can, to show how he's shadow banned, where you can track it and it breaks it down. Now the process is happening of getting visual on this and people seeing the report and then seeing it manifest in live time because they turned the censorship up the very week after the report came out. Because we knew it was all about to intensify because of the election. They said they were going to intensify. The left is everywhere saying ban Fox, ban Trump, ban Alex Jones, ban everything, ban free speech, just like the universities. They're making their move. They're launching their offensive against the most cherished system of our freedom, the First Amendment. It's here. It's authoritarian. It's nakedly corrupt. It's out of control. It's illegal. It's racketeering. It's organized crime. And all those members of Google, Facebook, and Twitter, they lied to Congress. Big time. They said, oh, we only shadow ban violent or hateful or whatever post. No, you don't. You put a governor on it of 90+%. Paul's governor is 97%. He was #1 on Twitter for actual responses above the BBC for 3 years running. He was #1. And how do they respond? 97% collar on him. He still gets like 10, 15,000 retweets. A restraining collar, like a shock collar. 97% demonetization of his YouTube channel. 97% shadow ban. Doesn't have all the fake followers. Only got 883,000 followers, but he had the highest Twitter response of any news organization in the world until the restraining collar went on. Oh, we didn't ban you. You just can't talk to anybody. We didn't take your free speech. We just buried you in the bottom of a pyramid somewhere. Maybe God can hear you, but nobody else can. Bye-bye. Enjoy the Phantom Zone. Bon voyage. Bon voyage. It's like General Zod. Here, we'll just freeze you. Bye-bye, Watson. You're not dead. You're just frozen for 1 trillion years. Bye-bye. So we're explaining, and now the president knows. And now the tumblers are going into place, and now we're energizing. But we're getting hit really hard here on the front line, which is fine. I just think you might want to support us and spread the word. We are verboten. We're the #1 enemy, and everybody should understand that and celebrate Infowars and watch us burn from afar and reignite the entire republic off of our ashes. But celebration is key. So here's where we are. They are having major international television media meetings I'm going to go to, now calling for Fox News to be deplatformed. They are calling for the president to be killed all over the news. No one's getting in trouble for it. They're trying to sabotage the Korean peace deal. They're trying to sabotage the economy. And they're engaged in an exponential shadow ban, not letting libertarians, conservatives, nationalists communicate with each other, and then not even telling you they've done it, and then lying about it to Congress. When we have all their own documents, Veritas video, their own admissions, their own policy reports that have been leaked to us. And we put it in the report to the president. And then they're so pig-headed, they intensify the shadow banning. And so members of Congress start checking to see if they're shadow banned, because there are big websites that do it for you now. And they find out that they're dialed back 90% on average. And then all these members of Congress are trying to run their TV ads. Democrats are allowed to run theirs. And then they put it on their Facebook. And Facebook goes, oh, no political ads allowed of conservatives. The NRA is being told they can't run ads now. And so you see, I'm answering the big secret question for everybody. Why is Facebook plunging? I'm going to explain it in a moment, but think about it. The NFL's got about 45% ratings reduction in the last 3 years. World Cup's down. It's gotten political, 40% as well. Hollywood's money-making, even with inflation added in, is down 30, 40%. All the major cable news shows have audiences that local talk radio has bigger audiences. You know, one hit show, like in a town like Chicago, has more listeners in 3 hours than CNN has in 3 hours. CNN is like government cheese or something. No one wants to eat it. It's like this thing that just flickers. You know, they pay to have it in bars. They pay to have it in airports. They force feed it in every public school in the country I know of. Little boil down 15 minutes of BS every first period. Brian Stelter. And the young people are all totally rebelling. They've got Infowars on their book bags, literally. And Stelter and them, they know this. That's why they want to shut down, because they're driving around the middle of nowhere. They see an Infowars sticker. That was in the middle of Nebraska by the Platte River, and there was Infowars homemade sticker on a light pole 30 miles outside Omaha. I walked into this little gas station, and there were two Indian Americans behind the counter, a man and woman. They were both listeners. I mean, oh, I just saw an Infowars sticker a mile away. I walk in, the two Indian Americans, they're listeners. I mean, they can't deal with this because everybody knows we're the verboten. So what are they going to do? What they're trying. Now, here it is. This is everything we've been looking for right here. The president to wake up to the internet takeover and the bullying of conservatives, libertarians, everything that I asked you to promote. I asked you to get the report out last week. You did it. And now you can send the report out to everybody you know and say, here's the report they don't want you to read, the censorship master plan decoded. And there's a little blurb article that has it linked in it, emergency report, the censorship master plan decoded. Now that's the Mike Adams report. Guys, I want the Paul Watson report that boils it down that came out the same day. I want to give people that article. That's the most critical thing I've been needing since the start of the show. Now, so I want people to now be able to go get this. Because here's the president. Twitter shadow banning, that term now, the president put it out there, just like Trump derangement syndrome. We've been talking about it for 2 years. Now the president talks about it. Now it's everywhere. So it just got amplified by the big guy, by the boss. Twitter, quote, shadow banning, all caps, prominent Republicans, not good. We will look into this discriminatory and illegal practice at once. Many complaints. And then we've got our 50-plus page report delivered to the president. The emergency report to Congress and the president on the blueprint for total internet censorship, the takeover, and how to counter the takeover. Infowars.com. At the next break, I'm going to retweet the Paul Watson article that's the best boiled down, then it has the report in it, at Real Alex Jones. And despite their shadow banning, you can show people at work, hey, I'm going to send this to your Twitter. And almost all of you won't even be able to do it, and show them that. Go, why isn't that funny? They don't want you to know about a report. But see, that's what makes it catch fire. That's what makes it so explosive. That's what makes it so exciting. That's what's so powerful about all of this. That's what's so exciting about all of this, because it is illegal. It is racketeering. It is a mass discriminatory practice, and they've been caught lying about it to Congress, and it's all coming unraveled. Now, why is Facebook plunging 20% today? Zuckerberg himself losing $16 billion. I'll cover it in the next segment, but I'll give you the answer now, 100%. And no one else is even saying this. The media is spinning it and saying, oh, it's because they won't kick hate off or whatever. No, it's because the left went after Cambridge Analytica, which was doing public legal scraping. And what Facebook does is 1,000 times more insane, just like the NSA. It's the same type, just private NSA that you opt into, that then face scans and nexuses everybody and creates these panopticonic control systems. It's a giant opt into the NSA snooper bug. Now, the left went after Republicans scraping it using low-level technology to reach voters because they didn't want them to have a slingshot to fight Goliath. And so when they did that, it's so amazing. When they pulled that, then that exposed all the illegal stuff that was many times worse. And so that wounded the whole model of privatized NSA data mining and control and social engineering. But that's not what finished it. Facebook knows that conservatives and libertarians in general have about 90% of middle-class money. There's a report out today that Democrats have like, 70% of the billionaire money. But for people that actually buy things and do things, the market is conservatives and Christians and people. So they made Zuckerberg kill Facebook, just like News Corp killed MySpace. They made him kill the company by not letting conservatives communicate, they all left. When you shadow ban 90% of conservative and Christian and pro-gun and pro-America and internal documents, YouTube and Facebook and Google, well, what do you ban? Anything Alex Jones, anything American flags, anything veterans. Okay, that's a lot. Anything Trump. So they banned all that. They killed it. They took a shotgun that was aimed at our head and pointed at their feet. And Zuckerberg said, this is going to hurt. And they said, do it. And he blew his feet off and the company's feet off. And they're bleeding to death right now. They won't even put a tourniquet on it. and then meanwhile, that people are like, aren't you worried about getting censored? I said, watch this. We got roots that are deep. We knew this was coming. We're not dependent on them. They're killing themselves. Just stand back and watch this. Just like the NFL, it's in Hollywood, it's all imploding, all by their own stupid design.
When historians look back on the Trump presidency, they'll say that this was the week that something changed, something really shifted in the conversations about the president. Uncomfortable questions moved into the mainstream in a big way. Trump's odd behavior with Vladimir Putin is compelling so many people to ask, what does Putin have on Trump? Has Trump been compromised? All of those people, those experts, those reporters, they are looking at the fact pattern and they're seeing something strange, even something sinister.
We'll give you everything you need. Man, I tell you, the attacks on Infowars have gone supernova. I just learned during the break that they've done a filing at Travis County and are going to attempt to strip my children from me because Forbes says I beat up an 11-year-old kid and posted a video of it when I leaked to an ABC News piece months ago, and Darren McBreen did a promo of it, of the little punk 11-year-old punching the guy or 12-year-old punching the guy in the face. He finally pushes him down in another state. I'll show you the article. They don't care. They're going with it in the news that I beat a kid up and tried to take my kids today. I just confirmed it. I may have to go off air and go down to the Travis County courthouse right now. I mean, this is what the Democrats have turned into, man. Because they say I beat a kid up, or they say Trump hates Mexicans. There's no video of them ever saying that. We've all got to just go to hell. Man, these people are next level. You know what? I'm not even going to go to court. People want to go into court and do that stuff and put that out. You know what? Whatever. Can you imagine they take my kids because of Forbes saying that? That just shows who the left are, man. If they can't abort all your babies, they're so pissed that sure as hell try to take them away from me. And they've been trying that for so long with the media lying and all the stuff they've done and taking stuff out of context. Unbelievable. Wow. So pray for Infowars, folks. Mark Dice has done an out-of-this-world funny piece on Brian Stelter, and Stelter blocked it and tried to have it removed and all the rest of it. It just shows what authoritarian these people are. But getting back to Zuckerberg, Facebook is a giant pump and dump. And it's a giant spy grid. And now that the left tried to expose Cambridge Analytica for doing public scraping, just going out and getting names of who affiliate themselves as conservatives or pro-Trump, then reach out to them and mobilize them. Public scraping. You put something out in public, it's going to get scraped. That is nothing compared to what Facebook actually does and how they admitted that they work for the Democratic Party and the globalists and Merkel and the EU. And he's on record. So the left wanted to stop Republicans from publicly data mining, so they killed the whole golden goose, or at least wounded it, by exposing the fact that, well, if that's bad, what they did, what you do is literally 1,000 times. When I say 1,000, I mean what Facebook does compares to like what they did at Cambridge Analytica is like a million, a billion, I don't know. I mean, it's so much bigger. It's like a grain of sand compared to a mountain. There's not even really a way for me to try to even describe this. So you've got the NFL killing itself with all the kneeling and the America hating. They can't help it. The globalists are giving the orders to do it. Hollywood, 30-40% down. They can't stop. All of these leftist universities like Missouri State and Evergreen have 15 to 30% in the last 2 years enrollment down. I mean, people are like, I'm not going to pay $15,000, $20,000 a year for my kid to be taught to hate America, and if they're white, they can't go to school on certain days to teach them what it's like. They didn't do anything. I mean, this is crazy. And so, but that's it. The big mega banks are global. They don't care about a university. They don't care about the NFL. They will order them to do this, and they will do it. Even if it destroys their franchises, even if it destroys the NFL, destroys Hollywood. Because who owns Hollywood? The big six. Even the Wall Street Journal reports the big six production houses, studios, are controlling interest, Chinese government. And people hear that, they don't believe it. They go look it up, they go, that's true. Yeah, who's owned our majority of our debt for 7 years? Chicoms, man. Chicoms. I mean, we're far down the road here. So when I get excited, it's because the patient looks like it might come back to life. The pulse is better. Kind of the patients woke up, but we're still in bad shape here. And they're trying to get Trump and Infowars and anybody else that's pro-America and pro-free market out of there so they can get in there and smother the patient with a big old pillow. And so that's where we are right now. So look, you want to take action in this world? There's strategic things you can do. There's strategic things you can do. And getting the report to the president, getting it to Congress, saying, see, here's a report on shadow banning. We just retweeted it at Real Alex Jones. We're going to retweet it at Paul's Prison Planet, Twitter. Get it out there. Send it out in your email. Say, hey, this is what the president's looking at. Get Paul Watson's boil-down report of it if you don't want to read 50 pages. Emergency. Big tech's plot to kill free speech revealed. I mean, this is, to use the Death Star analogy again of episode 4 Star Wars, this is the X-Wing and this is the torpedoes. You've got to get in the X-Wing and you've got to fly the trench. You don't have to actually risk your life. Just get the word out and take some action. And enough of you fire this information. This is coffin nails to censorship. This is it. And we also have to know they're going to spin it. Oh, Facebook's in trouble because of the haters. That has nothing to do with it. That's the bullying of the shareholders to get them in line for censorship when it's the censorship that's killing Facebook. 100%. So you need to reach out to the shareholders. If Facebook would be a good company and bring some value and you know, actually let people communicate, that could be their business model, advertising instead of data mining. So I don't want to just destroy things. Like, we have an enemy, you know, castle that we've captured. We're not going to blow it up. I mean, it's our castle now. I want the castle to do well. I like building things, but you're not going to use this stuff on us. Like, have you figured it out yet? We're smart. We're aggressive. Not just me, people like me. We are fighting you now. We used to be asleep. You thought we were intimidated. You thought we were under your control. No, we were asleep. Now, the more you do to bully us and attack us does not scare me. I mean, I know the worst things get for me is the mission. And so I'm actually very blessed. This persecution has been the best thing in my life. And it's really made me a better person. And I just thank God for what God's done. God has always, you learn God's mysteries, you learn how God works, and you just want to know more of it. You're like, oh, this is really amazing. Oh, wow. Oh, I see this whole thing now. And I see the plans and the wheels within wheels. And I just, oh, it's so beautiful and good. And I just want to be with that spirit forever. And so if I've got to go through some pain so that we have a future, that's a great thing, isn't it? And everybody's afraid to be bullied or afraid to be called out by evil people or slaves. That's a good thing. You don't think in World War II, when there was Japanese and Nazi propaganda against America, you don't think our soldiers believed that, do you? They knew it was a load of crap. And once you get into that mindset about mainstream media and the globalists, there's no going back. And you're not believing what they say or what I say. You're actually researching. You're involved. You're informed. I didn't plug this hour until now. If you want to finance what we're doing and be part of history and get great products at the same time, it's a total win-win, 360 win term I coined. And I mean, you couldn't buy war bonds better than Infowars. And part of the enemy really persecuting the daylights out of me and my folks and everybody else is just made me get focused. And I understand I was weak. I had to be tortured, to become strong. And so I just want to make sure that we go to the next level. And so I'm just telling everybody, you need to get the products. Everybody needs fish oil. We've got the cleanest, highest quality you're going to find out there. big 2-month servings of the krill oil, the wild harvested fish oil out of the fjords in the northern Atlantic. Very, very clean. It's all there. And then Honor Roll is the full spectrum of fish oils and other key oils that are known to turbocharge the brain for your children. Fish oil is so unbelievable. The problem is a lot of it has mercury in it. These companies are so cheap they don't denate that they don't pull it out. We get it wild harvested to get the very best. And then there's a whole expensive process to get the clean oil, and it's at non-detectable levels. Some spectrometers think they can find shadows of it. California levels are impossible to follow, but this is where you want to get it. You don't want to get it from fish, especially big fish like tuna. The krill's really good because they're so tiny they don't even bioaccumulate the mercury, and they're excellent as well. InfowarsLive.com, InfowarsStore.com. And whether we're going to win or not is up to you because you are in this fight. You are the Infowar. InfowarsStore.com or 888-253-3139. Hour number 2 have a special guest joining us. Stay with us. Last year when that guy ran over a bunch of people in New York, killing them, screaming Allah Akbar, and ISIS took responsibility. They had a congressional hearing saying it was fake news, that Infowars said that it was an Islamic attack. ISIS took responsibility. They took attack for the latest Toronto truck attack, one of many. And the guy was screaming Allah Akbar and was an Islamicist. So here's Joseph Watson's report on that.
Another mass shooting by a racist, misogynistic white male. When will the media and the government call this what it is? Terrorism!
The shooter's name was Faisal Hussain, a Muslim son of Pakistani immigrants.
How dare you even suggest this had anything to do with the religion of peace, Islamophobe?
Then what caused it?
Mental illness. He was depressed. He was sad.
The claim that the rampage was motivated by nothing more than mental illness was issued immediately after Hussain was named. A statement was written by Mohammed Hashim, a professional activist linked to the Muslim Brotherhood, who has committed himself to, quote, framing a new narrative of Muslims in Canada. He was literally given an award for being a spin doctor and, quote, changing how Muslims are seen in the Canadian identity. The statement was clearly designed to distract from speculation that the shooting was an Islamic terror attack.
How dare you question the family's statement? They're the victims. The media told me to embrace the shooter's parents.
No, the victims are the 10-year-old girl and the 18-year-old girl, their son murdered, and the 14 wounded people who he traumatized for life. His parents aren't the victims. Go f*** yourselves.
There's no evidence this was an Islamic terror attack. Racist.
Well, according to law enforcement, he visited websites affiliated with and expressed support for ISIS. His other online activities suggested this could be a, quote, jihadi-inspired mission. He targeted an Orthodox Christian area of the city. He spared non-white people during the attack, telling them, don't worry, I'm not going to shoot you. And ISIS claimed responsibility for the attack, something they don't normally do unless they're responsible for the attack.
Don't talk to me about facts. We know facts are just a tool of white supremacy. And anyway, this isn't about Islam. This is about gun control.
The gun he used was already illegal in Canada. No law would have stopped this shooting. Question for you. If this was a random act inspired by mental illness, why did the gunman look more proficient in his shooting skills than highly trained police veterans?
Conspiracy theorist.
Also, why hours after the ISIS claim of responsibility is CBC's top story about water on Mars? Why has Justin Trudeau been completely silent on this? Why has he taken off 6 days in a row?
Our Prime Minister isn't going to dignify your Islamophobia.
Oh, really? That's funny, because he was very quick to tweet about that Muslim girl who was attacked for wearing a hijab, an incident which turns out was a complete hoax and never actually happened. Also, why is it terrorism when a white guy shoots up a school, but just mental illness when a Middle Eastern guy shoots up a restaurant? Surely we should ignore the race of the perpetrator and look at the definition of terrorism, a politically or religiously motivated attack, to determine whether or not it's terrorism, right?
The real victims of this are Muslims in Canada who will be harassed and bullied by Islamophobes.
But wait, you said this had nothing to do with Islam.
Man, Paul Watson has topped himself. So has Mark Dice. Well, let's go out to break with this little Brian Stelter piece that Brian's tried to block and ban. But getting serious, our main reason our YouTube channel is totally frozen for live streaming and faces complete deletion of billions of views is because we show radical Islamists as saying they're going to kill people, and they say that's Islamophobic. See, I'm not allowed to tell you what's going on. I'm a bad person. I shouldn't tell you that ISIS took responsibility either. That's more fake news, even though it's admitted. We'll be right back. Here's Brian Stelter.
When historians look back on the Trump presidency, they'll say that this was the week that something changed, something really shifted, and the conversations about the president, uncomfortable questions, moved into the mainstream in a big way. Trump's odd behavior with Vladimir Putin is compelling so many people to ask, what does Putin have on Trump? Has Trump been compromised? All of those people, those experts, those reporters, they're looking at the fact pattern.
I'm Alex Jones, your host. Thank you so much for joining us. Now into hour number 2. I want to open the phones up a little bit later in the hour to get your take on the state of the world right now and what you think the globalists are going to do to get themselves out of this rout or this galactic-sized pickle that they are deeply in. But if you're a TV viewer, and we're a radio show that's simulcast on the internet and on television stations around the country, document cam shot, please. Here's the president. And this was today. Twitter, quote, shadow banning prominent Republicans not good. We will look into this discriminatory and illegal practice at once. Exclamation point. Many complaints. I mean, I don't know how they were getting away with the last few years. 90+%. Well, it was like 80. Now it's 90+ of all libertarian, Christian, conservative, mainline churches can't reach members on their Facebook. Mainline Christian groups, mainline veteran groups. I got a whole stack of news where members of Congress have been shadow banned. They can't post their political ads, but the Democrats are allowed to. And it's like, I'm a Tennessee grandma. Please reelect me. I like pie, and I love my grandchildren. And I'm pro-life. Well, that's hateful. You can't have that. Meanwhile, they have Facebook pages with millions of followers saying, kill the president, kidnap Barron, rape him. We have all the internal videos. The good news is this is now coming out. So I retweeted it at Real Alex Jones. See the shadow banning report that woke up President Trump, that we put out a week and a half ago, that got to the president and got to Congress. That's why I got so mad at Gates, who was chairing the committee, because he knew all the info and said, you're a private company, do whatever you want. And then they shadow banned him. But then there's the bravado, the chutzpah, the hubris of these companies doing this. I mean, you'd think if you were going to ban all the conservatives and all the libertarians and all the Christians on Facebook, YouTube, Google, Twitter, you think you'd leave at least the lawmakers that are elected, you'd let them share their stuff. But see, no. We must ban everything. And these Republicans didn't even know. And then Zero Hedge started linking to these high-tech sites, and I've had my IT people look at it. It's accurate. Kind of like they have those sites where you can trace your internet connection, and they have stuff you can do. They have these sites out of Europe. They have some here now, too. They're getting really big, where you can look at your reach and how you're blocked. And people are going on there, and they're like, I'm 97% blocked. We know that because we have Google Analytics on YouTube, and we used to have some of the AdSense from Google on. We still have a little bit of their ads running here and there just so we have access to it. I don't want to give it the inside baseball, but, I mean, Hillary, we were like 50% shadow banned during the campaign. But they thought, oh, that's Alex Jones, no big deal. Nobody listens to him. Doesn't matter if he's at tens of millions of people a day. It's just no big deal. Just we're so arrogant. Hillary's so powerful. No one listens to him. He's discrediting to the Patriot message. Yes. They want milquetoast, Harvard and Yale stuffed mummies that have betrayed the country up there reading off teleprompters. That's what the cool kids want, not that Alex Jones. Who cares if he had 86 million viewers election week? Who cares? We're the establishment. Let them eat cake. It's preposterous that they would listen to him. But then, 2 days after, rigged Alexa, Google Analytics, everything, 90% cut. And then Paul took the cake with 97% strangled. By the way, if you 97% cut the blood off of somebody's carotid arteries, you die. So it's like, oh, we haven't banned you. We've just 97% muffled what you're doing, your amplification. So they think with all these social justice warriors that they have created brigades of out of these failed colleges with their enrollment down 30%, the NFL down 30-40%, Hollywood down 30-40%. You're like, why is Zuckerberg down 20%? Why you lose $16 billion? Because they're killing half their users being able to communicate with each other. They thought under social engineering, if they wouldn't let you talk to your family or send people a meme, you'd go, well, I love sending memes so much, and I love communicating with people that came to my Facebook that I promoted, that I built, talking about you, talking about me, that I'll just join the Democrats so I can still talk to people. That's not how people work. Little SJWs who get to college 18, scared, they bring them in, they go, there's Nazis on campus. Yeah, you got to join us. Come to the Ford Foundation. And then that next night, they go put a swastika on their door, and the little nerds get scared. They go, Nazis are going to get me. And they go, yeah. Remember what happened to Candace Owens? She was a successful black lady launching IT stuff. So all of a sudden, we're going to get you, all this racist stuff. And then she found out it was the feminist Democrats doing it to get her under their control. So you get these scared people that have already been brainwashed in the public school. They show up at college. Corporations do it now. Starbucks, it's all a big re-education camp. And they just get them in and they go, did you hear? Last night they burned crosses. Really? Really? Yeah, oh, God. There's probably half the white people at this school are Nazis. We got to join the Communist Party right now to fight them. Okay, gosh, I'll join. And that's we've infiltrated these. College reform's done it. You'll have, at Berkeley, routinely, Bill Ayers shows up, like, hey, kids, and then he salutes Antifa, and they march out and hit women in the head with bike locks. And it's like LARPing. It's like live-action role-playing. And then, white people aren't allowed at Missouri State, says the weird white lady. Get me some muscle. Get me a big black guy over here, as if that doesn't sound racist. She's like, she's calling a dog, get over here and take this white out of here. They wonder why enrollment went down 25-30% the next year, and it's still tanking. They don't care, though, because they don't live in the real world, folks. So I knew that if we were to expose all this, that they never get away with it. And for some reason, everybody was too lazy. Members of Congress were, the other tech companies, but most of the other conservatives, they're like, well, Alex, we're not going to come on your show anymore, and we're not going to promote you anymore, because when we do, we get shadow banned. And I said, but once they cut me off, they're going to start doing it to you. Sure. You're just jealous that we're going to be bigger than you. And I go, I don't want to be bigger. I wish you were better than me. I would literally quasi-retire right now if we could turn the corner. Okay? You think I like doing this? I don't like pushing my luck walking point for 25 years, okay? No, I'm ready to get in the rear with the gear, okay? I'm ready to go play some golf. I'm ready to go do some fishing. A lot of stuff I want to see, a lot of things I want to do. I don't want to risk my life every day, but you know what? If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it 110%, and I'm going to like it. But it doesn't mean that I don't want to win the war. I'm not trying to be Big Ben Shapiro. I'm not trying to be the big leader. I'm looking for leadership. I'm looking to win this war. And I told people, I told prominent people, I said, they're coming for you next. And I said, watch, they're going to start banning you because they're jealous of you because you're so big. And I'm talking about other people. People can probably guess. And now those individuals, I've started to see they're getting censored, even though they went along. I'm not talking about Shapiro. Even though Shapiro goes on and kisses the ring of Bill Maher. I mean, those two almost sniffed each other's butts like two dogs. Didn't matter. They're already getting him. Because they don't like you if you're successful, period. They want control. Brian Stelter wants to be the only thing on TV. And the weird hunchbacks that own Time Warner like putting a demon like that up that looks like the Subway founder in front of you to rub it in your nose. Ugliness, hunchback, devil worship, weakness, failure. I just want to go head up against these people and get this war won. Well, if you ever wanted to know what the battle for the West, the battle for free speech, would look like, you're in the middle of it. An enemy axis, a combine of communist China, the radical Islamicists, the unelected Juncker Nazi dynasty of the EU, literally, can't make that up, honchoed by another Nazi collaborator, George Soros, who's then worshipped by the ADL for rounding up and killing Jews, with Hollywood that hates America, and the big banks with a bunch of out-of-control authoritarian weirdo professors that hate free speech, backed up by Big Pharma and the pharmacological complex engaging in a dumbing down eugenics operation run by people worth hundreds of millions of dollars apiece who control trillions, who are SJW social justice warriors to create race war and division, to control us, divide and conquer. That's it. Now, I'm going to give the number out and take calls in the next segment, but I wanted to play a Mark Dice piece because, you know, Mark is a really funny guy, and you know, his average video had 5 million views until they shadow banned him, and now his average video has 500,000 views. But see, Mark Dice didn't stop being hardcore. In fact, Mark Dice got more hardcore. And then Mark Dice started doing things like I told him years ago, selling T-shirts, other products to fund himself, to launch other broadcasts, to do more. And he started working even more. So they forced Mark Dice from being, with his media analyst degree and everything, guy I've known for like 13 years, gosh, longer than that, I'm getting old, to now full-time doing this. See? And he's even more effective now. So that's all they make us do. And I've got some big stunts planned. I mean, I'm all in, man. Metaphysically, in the last few days, we passed some demarcation line, and we're winning. And I've just accepted the fact that I am completely expendable, and I'm very comfortable with it. And I just want to win. I want humanity to win. I want planetary victory. I love the species. I love you. And I'm really at peace. And I know we're going to win. But some of us are going to have to take a licking for this victory. And I can feel spiritually, I mean this, I can feel your will and your strength amplifying God's will. And I can feel the fact that the intimidation and the bullying and the censorship and the attacks that you've gone through to tell the truth, that you have fully, like a bucking bronco, thrown the globalist off your back, and you are free. I could feel it. I can feel when the enemy's on the move. I can see it. I know. People in the office over the years, I've said, watch, something big's going to happen today or tomorrow, and it does. And the enemy's going to come back too. But this is the strongest wave of God's energy, the Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it, because it's not even the Holy Spirit for babies where you just feel God's love and it's so intense. It's will, it's determination, it's peace, it's justice, it's completion. It's victory. It's all, you're through it. It's not the first levels of Christ. It's deeper. It's bigger. It's the most high level. It's the synergy, the understanding, the stillness, the purity. And then you just feel so sorry for the devil worshipers and people that are doing more and more evil things, trying to get closer to the devil to get power, when the devil doesn't have the power and never did. Let's go to I have time to go to the Mark Dice piece. We'll go over. We'll play it next segment then. And let me just do this right now, because this is so insane. I haven't even counted all this. And then the surrealness of when I saw on the news, and I'm not even going to give it attention or go to it, where YouTube used community guidelines saying violence, Islamophobia, which are just words they made up. Now notice that's and child endangerment, because I showed something that ABC News, CBS News, NBC News showed months ago of the 11, 12-year-old, I don't know how old the kid is, looks like he's 12, reportedly breaking stuff in the parking lot, and then hitting other people, and he starts hitting some adult in the face 3 or 4 times, and the guy pushes him down. And then the kid gets back up. McBrain did a joke PSA deal that I love McBrain's work. I think it was actually one of his better pieces, so it only aired one time. But we got a strike for that, for showing what ABC News showed. But see, that's what I'm telling you is, it's just this thing where they say whatever it is, they take your video down, you don't even get to show people what it is, they just say child endangerment. So then the Democrats, who are constantly trying to take my kids, jump on the bandwagon and run down to file a deal to restraining order, take my kids today at Travis County Court. I learned about this. And people said, are you going to run down there? No, I'm not. Because I didn't endanger any kids. I didn't beat this kid up, even though the news, I forgot that part. I was going to start it there. Forbes is saying I beat up some kid in another state. It's not even me. at a metaphysical level, I'm not even going to defend that. Just whatever then. Put me in the lion's den. I mean, I don't even know anymore, like, the level of these people and the deception. I mean, look at this. Facebook admits it's blocked Republican candidates' pro-Second Amendment ad. Twitter lifts shadow ban on conservatives after congressman threatens FEC complaint. Yeah, it's a federal election commission violation. It's illegal, as Trump said. They know this. They've been letting them do it. It's unbelievable. It's the biggest discrimination ever. YouTube issues a new strike against Alex Jones' channel over hate speech and child endangerment. So, child endangerment for showing what ABC News showed. In fact, can we pull up? I've got the article somewhere in my stack from ABC News when they first had the guy pushing the kid down. I mean, what? I'm a news broadcast. I showed a viral video. But see, when I do it, it's child endangerment, and I've got Forbes here where I beat the kid up. They say. YouTube issues new strike against Alex Jones' channel over hate speech and child endangerment. Facebook asked to justify Infowars and Fox News. Oh, yeah, Deadline.com. The Democrats are meeting at the big TCA presentation, one of the biggest organizations in the world for media, and they're calling for Fox to be banned, too. See, I told you, it's everybody. Facebook executives defend having Fox News and atrocious Infowars on platforms, CEW. See? It's everybody. It's like the Congress is like, you can ban Alex Jones. Congressman Gates says that's all right because he says nobody died at Parkland. Even though it's not true. Yeah, ban him. Screw him. Meanwhile, they go, well, thank you, sir. We'll shadow ban you as well. And you go, well, why would they do that? Because evil isn't smart. It's right when my report was sitting on all their desks. You guys just keep stepping in it, don't you? Facebook executives defend having Fox News on as Democrats call for it to be banned. Trump accuses Twitter of silencing Republicans and calls it discriminatory and illegal. It is, and they are doing it. Infowars.com. CNN lies about banned Infowars videos and new censorship attempt. See the videos. I should have said this at the start of the show. See the videos that they claim are all these things. And then, can we pull up the Forbes article? Because I thought I had it here, but I'm having trouble finding the Forbes one where they say that I beat up the kid. Oh, here it is. Why YouTube's Infowars ban is meaningless. And they just go on and say, ban everything. He needs to be taken off the air completely. Oh, here it is. This is ABC News, Yahoo News. A video of a man shoving a child that is dividing the internet. June 7th. And then if you pull it up, it's the video that Forbes says is me beating a kid up. And this is in another state. And they name the man and everybody else, and it's not me. But who cares? Just say I did it. Fake news. You know? Talked about lawyers. Thanks to Forbes saying that I beat up a 11 or 12-year-old kid in another state. They are now at the Travis County Courthouse trying to take my kids right now as we speak. Thanks a lot, Forbes. Really appreciate that. Unbelievable, the fake news media. But you know what? That's just the way it is. Fine. Make up whatever you say. The president hates Mexicans. Never said it. Just tell your lies, tell it, and tell it, and tell it. Oh, sorry, here's Forbes and a bunch of others. Why YouTube's Infowars ban is meaningless. Here is the retracted. Alex Jones played an ABC News video, they don't tell you that, of a young teen attacking adults, and finally one of them pushes him to the ground. We said, look at this spoiled brat. Everybody else made that same point. But they said Alex Jones attacked and punched the child. Punches a child to the ground. He actually pushed him to the ground, so they even lie in their retraction. So here is where they said that I did it. And now a court case filed to take my children from it. I'm not laughing because this is fun. This is just next level. Why YouTube's Infowars ban is meaningless. And it goes on to say, Jones pushes a child to the ground. This I said pushes on the other one too. So there you go. Jones pushes a child to the ground. And then they use this term. See, that's how the fake news works. They said Jones violated bullying of Muslims, bullying of transsexuals, and child endangerment. Well, that sounds great. The videos were removed of Jones and child endangerment. You're like, what is he like, giving his 10-year-old Jack Daniels or something, or letting him play in traffic? You don't know what it is. It's like, that's leftists come up to me all the time and they go, glad you lost your effing kids, scum. And sometimes I'm sitting there with my children, like at the beach, and I'm like, this is my new wife. I got a baby with her. I got 3 children with my last wife. I've got my children. And then the 2 gay guys at the airport run up to Rex and go, you want to go? You want to throw down? And then they look at my family because they told us, we're gay. You don't like us. I'm like, that's not true. And then they go, well, F your family. And then Rex gets his bags before we do. He starts going towards where he knows we've got our car parked in the parking area across the street. And the dudes come over and bow up to him. 30-something-year-old snowboarder guys that were in a professional snowboarding deal. They weren't like little wimpy guys. And they were both about my size. It was like big guys, like were like this to me. And I was like, then they go over to my son. It's like, because I'm this bad guy because somebody told you so. I didn't attack this kid. This kid attacked somebody else, but it wasn't me. And now my YouTube channel is frozen. And it's all over the news that I endangered children. So people take the news like it's God. CNN, Alex Jones, YouTube taken down for endangering children. Child endangerment. And they take it like it's God. And then like it's the 10 Commandments, and they just run with it. He hurt his kids. He beat up a kid. There it is. YouTube comes down on Alex Jones for hate speech and child endangerment. But they don't show you a quote or a video. No, they just say it. And then in every article, there's thousands. I looked at over 100 last night, this morning. It's the same thing over and over again. And then he said none of the kids died at Parkland. And then he went and bullied them at their houses. And then he went to their graves. And he harassed them. And then they never show a link, do they? Because they're liars! Liars! And that's what's getting crazy, is that they are trying to get whack jobs to attack the president, his family, me. And these people really believe I'm a Nazi. They really believe I hate gay people. Meanwhile, they want to bring in radical Muslims that are throwing gays off buildings. It's just none of it even matches reality. None of it ever matches what I ever said. Let's go to this Mark Dice piece. It's really powerful, and we'll come back. I'll give the number out and take your calls. We have a special guest joining us. Here it is.
Well, I guess CNN's Brian Stelter doesn't like my impression of him. I tweeted him a little clip from Monday's video where I dubbed my voice over a clip of his actual show, and then I went back to check the replies, and he blocked me. And just a few days earlier, he was complaining to Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey, saying that he was contemplating quitting Twitter because people were tweeting mean things to him. Dorsey had tweeted about a New York Times writer named Maggie Haberman, who recently wrote a whole article about why she was walking away from Twitter. And so then Brad Stelter responded saying, I'm really glad that you responded to her piece, but what about the sewer? I'm becoming reluctant to post because of how disgusting the replies are. Replies that show up right next to my content. In many cases, the attackers are not real people who your advertisers want to reach. Dorsey responded, we've been getting better at both ranking in replies, slowing and stopping amplification of those intending to game our systems, and removing malicious and suspicious accounts, bots included. Thanks for your reply. I appreciate it. I don't envy your challenge, but I'm glad you're trying to clean up the joint. Quick plug for verified identity. I don't know how else to stop the sock puppets and troll farms. I do think that there's a pretty high probability that in the near future that Twitter will probably go to a real name policy, just like Facebook. And you'll have to literally upload your driver's license in order to get your account activated. Oh, I should probably play the video that triggered Brian if you haven't seen it. And even if you've seen it, stick around because I want to cover some important Twitter censorship news in just a minute.
When historians look back on the Trump presidency, they'll say that this was the week that something changed, something really shifted in the conversations about the president. Uncomfortable questions moved into the mainstream in a big way. Trump's odd behavior with Vladimir Putin is compelling so many people to ask, what does Putin have on Trump? Has Trump been compromised? All of those people, those experts, those reporters, they're looking at the fact pattern and they're seeing something strange, even something sinister.
That sack of soy got so hurt over that video that I'd be willing to bet that he cried himself to sleep last night over it. As much as I despise this little mouse, whose show is literally called Reliable Sources, I think that Alex Jones articulates the essence of who Brian Stelter is better than anyone.
This guy, this spirit, this smiling, leering devil that thinks you can't see what he is your enemy. Period. All the narcissistic, devil-worshipping filth. I see you, enemy. I see you, enemy. 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 You are my enemy. And I swear total resistance to you with everything I've got. Stelter. You will fall. You will not bring humanity down. God is going to destroy you. Get him off the screen.
This is by far the greatest Alex Jones rant of all time, and that's just a small little sample of it. And speaking of Alex Jones, YouTube just issued another strike on his channel and censored 4 of his videos for violating the community standards. You can go and see the videos. They're backed up on another site if you go to Infowars.com. Oh, by the way, on Tuesday, Congressman Matt Gaetz was tweeting about how Twitter was shadow banning him and other Republican members of Congress by preventing their names or their accounts from even showing up in the search results if you didn't follow them and you happened to look up their account. And I had a whole list of people that I tested this with, and myself was included on that shadow ban list. So I was going to do a whole video about this, but thankfully, Congressman Matt Gaetz was tweeting about this. Donald Trump Jr. has been tweeting about this. It started making headlines, and now Twitter just mysteriously fixed the problem. I don't know when it started, but at least up until last night, if you searched on Twitter for a variety of key Republican names and conservative Twitter personalities, myself included, nothing would show up in the search results or for the recommended account.
All right, great job, markdice.com. I'm going to make this point. See, until we fought back, they didn't quit, but they're going to come right back. They're going to run another raid, guerrilla warfare, as soon as we turn our backs. They have to be broken up. This is a sinister criminal conspiracy. So this broadcast is under unmitigated, unprecedented attack because we're accurate. We cover real news, real information. We have a very special guest joining us the next hour. I will open the phones then. I got behind here, but there is a full-out attempt to ban free speech on the web. You know that. You've experienced it as activists, as patriots, for every race, color, and creed, the human race with red blood. But now Trump's saying it's illegal. He's aware of it. They're having hearings in Congress about how conservatives are shadow banned, and they intensify the shadow ban on Republican candidates and members of Congress ahead of the midterms. This is unbelievable election interference. And I can't believe that they're arrogant enough to be doing this, but it's perfect. And that's why they're pissed. Because let me tell you, a lot of people are lazy. They don't study historical doctrine. They don't know how things hook together. And so the establishment is really freaked out about Infowars. Because you'll have analysts in the government that study their whole life, one area, and they're supposedly the person to talk to. And then you'll have other, people that are on the ground. Everything's compartmentalized. We're not compartmentalized. Infowars, not compartmentalized. I mean, the top of our head's like a hydrogen bomb going off. There's just the top of the head's gone. So, and they don't like that. Trying to get people stuff for the memes. Like when I did the catch him in bed with a goblin. And the media went, Jones believes goblins live under the White House. And he believes goblins are about to attack. And he believes Trump is fighting goblins. It's called satire, allegory. Can we start the next segment with the famous place boing? Catch him in bed with a goblin. I don't believe goblins are real. And I wasn't serious about shooting Robert Mueller. I said I wasn't serious. I said, politically, it's high noon. Okay? It's having some fun. But I digress. They are in a conniption fit all over the news because John Podesta and Hillary still basically run the media in this country. That was their last master. Now that the globalists have been politically decapitated, that doesn't mean literally, politically decapitated, their command and control system, they are just following the last orders from Podesta to shut down the internet, use Alex Jones as the poster child, create sex war between men and women, divide and conquer, move forward with the big corporations looting the country. Oh, I'm Bezos. I'm worth $160 billion. I pay no taxes. But a family making $100 grand a year is racist and rich. We need higher taxes. It's like the logic is under attack. Bunch of rich white dudes trying to create a race war. It's like, what the hell does that do? So here's the big news. Facebook is still plunging in the stocks 20% because their model is illegal spying. And then they won't even let conservatives, who are most of the market, I mean, the average leftist can't even wipe their butt with both hands, man. I'm not trying to be mean. These are losers. And so they're going to kick out the productive society off your platform. Of course you're going to sink into the abyss. It's hilarious, actually. So, and I don't want this to tank the whole stock market. I just, the NFL, Hollywood, they're all killing themselves because you've got crazy people like Sumner Redstone, who's 90-something years old, still in command of the biggest media company in the world, Viacom. And he's, you know, like, he's got some weird, you know, cuckold fetish thing like the Clippers owner. And so that's why everything you tune into is like weird, you know, sex stuff, because he's obsessed with interracial porn. Because he's an old, weird racist, just like the Clippers owner. And you're like, you wonder why it's so crazy, because it's being programmed by people with Alzheimer's. The whole New World Order is an insane asylum. I mean, Sumner Redstone was a smart, evil guy 50 years ago. My God, he took over his dad's big, you know, chain of theaters and everything and said it isn't about the theaters, it's about the content. I mean, he was a visionary 70 years ago. Now he's just a crazy person with a brain of Swiss cheese. I just know some of the inside baseball about Redstone. Oh, I know some of those lawyers years ago. I learned a little bit. Is old Jake Bloom still alive? One of the big lawyers in L.A. How's he doing? Wonder how old, how those old boys are doing. Anyways, getting back to what I was saying here, this is really screwed up, and it's crazy. And so we've got a bunch of disease-brained 90-year-olds running the nuclear weapons, the government, everything. Yeah. I mean, you don't actually think Google and Facebook and Twitter, these people run things. No. It's the crazy communist Chinese and a bunch of elderly octogenarians who are mad because Christians were mean to them 75 years ago, so they're going to bring in all the Muslims. Cuckoo land, cuckoo, 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 cuckoo. All right, let me just do this because the end of the hour is here, and if I don't do this, we won't be here. I'm not funded by big mega banks of the communist Chinese. I'm funded by you, and we set out to produce the ultimate krill fish oil supplements. We have pure fish oil, wild harvested, the mercury removed to non-detectable levels. Because you can get great stuff from fish, but this, you know, the mercury's in there. Krill's really great because it's had the mercury removed as well, but there's not really much to remove because krill's so small. It doesn't bioaccumulate. You know, little things get eaten by bigger things, and then it kind of builds up. Ultimate krill oil, ultimate fish oil, and then roll call is a whole spectrum of them just for brain. Krill oil and the fish oil has the whole spectrum for the heart and the body and the skin, not just the brain, but the honor roll's for the brain. That's for your kids, and it's in a child size little doblet. And your funding of the operation, let's just say, is absolutely essential to the victory against those that would stop planetary expansion to type 1 civilization and then the jump to the next level. Not interstellar travel, but interdimensional travel. In, through, and beyond. You fund us, we will deliver victory. You don't, we'll be destroyed. But others will stand up because you can't stop the signal. Humanity's going next level. We'll be back. Stay with us. Third hour, 2 minutes away. I don't want to see him kissing goblins, ingratiating goblins, in bed with a goblin. I don't want to see him kissing goblins, succubus with goblins, ingratiating goblins, in bed with a goblin. I don't want to see him kissing goblins, ingratiating goblins, in bed with a goblin. I don't want to see him kissing goblins, ingratiating goblins, in bed with a goblin. Dump it. Charging into a goblin's nest of goblin vomit and slop and blood on it. Especially up to his ankles. Trump charging into a goblin's nest of goblin vomit and slop. Goblin vomit and slop. I'm not expecting him to not get dirty slop. Kissing goblins. Ingratiating goblins. Succubus with goblins. In bed with a goblin. Kissing goblins. Ingratiating goblins. I just want to catch him in bed with a goblin, bed with a goblin, bed with a goblin, bed with a goblin. I just don't want to catch him in bed with a goblin, bed with a goblin, bed with a goblin. Is that goblin phobia? Hey, can we play that thing I had you do like a week ago I never aired? Or maybe we did, of Hillary saying, I'm tired, I can't get up, and falling down and all that, them saying that's fake news, we said that. Let's cue that up ahead of our next guest. But here's what's getting crazy. The reason I remembered that a couple years ago, right before the campaign was over and Trump got elected, I did a little allegory of Mordor. And I said, this is an allegory of Trump going into Mordor to fight goblins. And as long as he doesn't marry a goblin, because he has to go into the swamp, he's going to get some swamp stuff on him. He's not going to make every move perfect. People are going to lie to him. He'll make deals with people that are goblins. He'll find out later they're goblins. Just he can't knowingly get caught kissing goblins or in bed with a goblin. I mean, if Kim Jong-un isn't a goblin, but he's trying to, tame that goblin. So you can kind of argue he has kind of gotten in bed with a goblin. In bed with a goblin, in bed with a goblin. So they ran headlines everywhere that Jones believes that goblins exist and that Trump is having sex with goblins. That was all over the news. That's fake news, ladies and gentlemen. And it's the same thing when I go, this is an allegory. I mean it politically. I don't mean it literally. We play spaghetti Western music. Mueller, I'm going to meet you on the field, 6-shooter. And I knew that they would take it and lie about it. And then it would get all the stuff about him protecting Epstein and using him as an informant to set people up with underage kids. I mean, that's the big thing Mueller did. So I did all that knowing they'd misrepresent it, and then knowing they'd actually pick up my part about him and being connected to the child molestation, which is mainstream news, but that would bring that back out. But then I didn't realize that the mainstream media would deceive even worse, and that they would actually just not even show the video, but edited like quotes. I'm not going to even say it because they'll edit it and play it, but, Alex Jones says, Mueller, the last thing I'd want. So, see, I'm not that smart. I think I'm smart, but they are going so low now with levels that we've all got to be careful. So, in hindsight, I wouldn't have said the Mueller thing now because they went even lower than I thought. And they dropped it because people saw through it. They're like, Democrats are saying kill everybody everywhere, rape, Trump's children, murder them. They're serious about it. Scalise is getting attacked, Rand Paul, we're all getting attacked. I'm saying nonviolent. Then I use this allegory to point out the hypocrisy. They all flip out. But still, I don't want to get on their level. That's what I'm saying. Let's go out to break with Hillary here. She just climbed Mount Everest last week. Here it is.
We cannot stop, and we have to be supporting each other. It's kind of exhausting to be part of protesting and marching and demonstrating and resisting, but we cannot stop.
I've been back there listening to Randy, and I'm so exhausted I can barely stand here. I'm so exhausted I can barely stand here. It's kind of exhausting to be part of protesting and marching and demonstrating and resisting.
That's their God. That's their God, because their God is weakness. They want to reflect their own ugliness. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Infowars.com, newswars.com, the most hated website on the planet by scumbags. Spread the link. Victory is ours. We are back live, broadcasting worldwide. Vox Day is our guest. He's an author, researcher. I've been a big fan of his work for years. I'm like, why didn't I get him on as a guest? Well, we finally got him on a few times. Vox Day is the best-selling author of SJW-free Always Lie. And the studies actually show that they're like, 6 times more likely to steal, 9 times more likely to virtue signal. They will not give to charity. Depending on the country, something like 80% of charity is Christians and conservatives. And like, I'm not bashing Muslims, but that's not happening with them or anybody else. It's Christians. And there's a reason the globalists don't like Christians. Because whether you believe in God or not, we just don't get in line with the big plan. We don't worship the state. So some of our founders, probably a third of them, were actually more kind of illuminist, but not in the Illuminati vein, but just trying to figure stuff out. But they still recognize you don't want the king to be God. You want God to be God, because then that actually makes you God, and not in a Luciferian way, but where the little g, in the image of God, where the state isn't on top of you, you have a chance to try to build yourself up to a level at least where you can stare at the night sky and hopefully see God. That's a silly allegory. But voxday.blogspot.com, voxversity.com, and I guess he's still on YouTube. They're taking everybody down. Vox was like, when we invited him on about a week ago, and he was able to come on today. He's got his alt hero Crackdown. We're selling the new comic book, First Patriot Conservative. Really awesome comic book. If I was in a comic book store, I'd buy this at InfoWarsStore.com. Alt hero #1 Crackdown. But I said, hey, what's he want to come on about? Because I just wanted to get him on for commentary. And Daria, the producer, said, whatever you want to cover. Well, I don't want to make this gonzo journalism about me. Believe me, I don't. But I don't want to toot the listener's horn or everybody else's horn, but I want to tell everybody something here. This is a lot bigger than the Super Bowl, okay? Because this is for your children's future. We wrote a report to the president because I was told by people very close to the president, well, do you have a report? Because we're aware of a lot of this. And I said, you guys don't have the report? Doesn't Pompeo got somebody over there? And they go, no, we know about shadow banning and everything else, but, what do you, and they're not patting me on the head, believe me. I mean, they're not just calling me up, to play patty cakes and make me, it's not like a pat on the head deal. So I said, really, the president wants a real report. And I said, well, I got an engineer that knows as much as I do or more. We'll put our heads together. We'll put a report together. 3 days later, Mike Adams didn't sleep. He wrote the definitive report. Paul Watson did a 7-page article that breaks it down. And it has now gotten to the president 8 days ago. It's gotten to Congress. And the weirdest little twist of strangeness, they went to complete shadow ban of all Republicans except John McCain the day after the hearing. So 5 days after they get the report, they have a hearing. The next day, they shadow ban everybody. The censorship master plan decoded is on their desk. We didn't just send it to everybody or ask you to email it. We had it delivered. I even got on the phone, people that know Gates. He's been on the show. It's private conversations. I'm not getting into it. People very close to him filled him in. We knew he was going to be chairing the committee. Screwed us over, said you have a right to censor everything, just don't call for killing Republicans. The next day, they shadow banned him as a sign of weakness. So I'm just telling you right now, for listeners, this is a big deal. This is why they want to shut down, because I'm not that special. But I'll spend 10 hours, in a week getting articles together and brainstorming with other people and writing a report to the president. I mean, I respect that fact that I could get that to the president. And notice all these big, mighty trillion-dollar empires, Google, Facebook, Twitter, all of them, are already shaking to their core right now because of their actions and their arrogance and their hubris, and then that widow's mite of the little donation of energy, and then the universe was waiting to give it back 1 trillion times. That's what I'm telling people. You have to send the radar ping out in free will. It's not like The Secret and Oprah Winfrey, like you imagine castles in the frickin', clouds and you get them. We have on this planet the base to do everything. That's why the globalists want to control the future, because we're there. We are at the next level of the little g. Not God, but in God's image, and they're panicked. So it's a huge time to be alive. The reports are on Infowars.com. Emergency report, the censorship master plan decoded, the Adams report, and God, the way they walked right into, not the trap, I mean, we just did it. I knew it was critical for that hearing, Vox. The way they walked into that, and now Trump says it's illegal, we're starting investigations, the dominoes are falling. Notice the tech companies are plunging right now because the jig's up. I mean, this is just amazing how arrogant they are. I'm ranting. Go ahead. Good to have you here with us.
Thanks, Alex. Good to see you.
What do you think about that whole 5-minute rant? I mean, this epic moment we're at with the censorship, the globalists, the Italy waking up, the Europe waking up. Just it's my website, YouTube about to be taken down because we dare show radical Islamists doing bad things. I mean, this is one hell of a war.
Yeah, the lid is coming off. And the reason that they're cracking down so hard is because they can feel their control beginning to slip. You know, you had George Soros openly admitting that he's failed. He knows he's failed. And what a lot of people don't realize
that was New York Times last week. I have to be obnoxious and just add you're correct. Go ahead.
Yeah. So what's happening now is the fact that these tech companies, the big social media companies, are propped up. You know, they cannot exist in a normal economy. So they're being propped up by lots and lots of finance. You know, Twitter has never made a dime, ever. You know, these are not profitable companies that can actually make a long-term go of it. They're totally dependent on being propped up by government and by the banks.
They're propped up projections.
Right. And so what's happening here is that their ability to keep the stuff propped up is slipping because Donald Trump and the people around him have been striking at their financial bases. And so that means that their ability to fund their activities is slipping. And also they've grown to the point, you know, just like a cancer grows to the point that the body can't support it anymore. They have grown to the point that the economy cannot support it anymore. Something like 85% of all online advertising goes to just two companies, Google and Facebook. But the advertising on Google and Facebook is no longer effective because that's the only place to advertise. And so they've reached the point that their very success is now leading to their demise.
Exactly, because they killed competition. They killed the very market by creating the tyranny. It always happens. So now the tyrants always try next level tyranny to make the tyranny work, which always leads to revolution.
Exactly. And so we're at a point now where all of these converged industries are starting to get disrupted. You know, you saw what happened. You're familiar with what happened in Gamergate. Now a new movement has started called Comicsgate, and that's completely disrupting Marvel and DC and the comics industry. And that's really significant. You know, comics are not a big deal.
They are a big deal in archetype, as you know, and that's the only hope of Hollywood is the comics.
Well, right. The thing that's important about the comics is that comics are basically the seeds of the movies. And the movies are what matter in cultural terms. And so, and the TV shows are what matter in cultural terms right now. And so the comics are the seeds for that. And that's why you were seeing them poisoning the seeds and pushing all that nonsense, all the social justice nonsense, all the diversity, all the transgenderism, all the flat out evil that they've been pushing. Now you're starting to see that converge into the movies.
Let's explain how that happens exactly. And it's a paradox, you're right. They're not important, but they are important because they're the seed of the archetype. If you look at a Jung-type analogy, and that's what they're going after. And so if you look at Netflix, any of these shows, it's pure weaponization. And they put it in a total fantasy reality to make you turn off your cognitive analysis, to put you in suspended disbelief, then bombard you with political messages. They'll be back with Vox Day. I am Alex Jones. All right, radio talk show host, best-selling author, researcher, now comic book publisher, Vox Day is our guest. And I was ranting earlier getting him on, but I mean, I can't help but bring us to the middle of this. They're having congressional hearings where they obsess on shutting us down, shutting Trump down. I knew that was coming. I get the report to Trump. He says they're illegal. We're going to crack down. We're going to expose it. You can just energetically feel that the wind has turned. We were kind of at that, I think that back and forth point for a while, but I don't want to get all hokey here because I don't claim I'm some psychic, but just at a gut level, my gut's never been wrong. I think we've at least won a big battle, and I think there's a big war we're in, and you can win the battle, lose the war. But Vox Day, just as a Christian, as a patriot, as a parent, just as a person, what would you call this time we're in, and just the evil, the people that serve lies, the control freaks, those that use understanding of human systems to control people versus empowering people? Where would you say they are right now? Because they've gone through different arrogance and then hatred, everything. Now I can feel, and I don't take enjoyment in this, but I can feel their true horror now. Because as you said, their God is controlling our minds. Their God is killing free will, in my view. And do you agree? Do you disagree? What would you nuance and add? And what do you think is coming next? Because I never want to be too positive and then miss the counterstrike.
What's coming next is they're going to increase the attacks on the financial bases of their opponents. So we're already seeing that. We've already seen Stripe take down Freestarter and several other sites that were being used to fund different things. Like my own Voxiversity was done on Freestarter. We originally crowdsourced Alt Hero on Freestarter. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to cut down our options. It's the same reason that they kicked Infowars off YouTube. They want to try to eliminate your ability to reach out. So
just like Hitler first put Jews in and others he didn't like in these ghettos to make you poor, people forget about you, then they ship you to the death camp. It's the same thing. They're isolating us, they're cutting us off.
I don't think it's quite the same analogy, because in the Hitler analogy, the Jews were the minority. In the current situation, we are the majority.
Exactly.
And so what they're attempting to do is, what you have to understand is that they're very frightened, okay? They are terrified. They're so frightened that Google actually canceled a company-wide meeting because they knew that employees at Google were going to send me the notes from that meeting.
Now you're giving inside baseball. I read quotes from Google saying they wouldn't even talk to CNN, tell them stuff. They said because of security issues with Jones. I'm not going to hurt anybody. They know we've got people inside.
Yeah, exactly. And you do, I do, Cernovich does, a lot of people on the right do. And it drives them crazy that they cannot thought police their own organizations. But it's a catch-22 for them, because they can't employ lots and lots of people without a few conservatives, without a few Christians.
And that's why they're trying to go to AI. But before they get to the AI, how do we exploit that there are free-thinking people that don't want classic tyranny, who actually hurt us and know that we don't hate them? How do we get them to do even more to stop this?
Well, the most important thing that we need to do is we need to stop thinking that capitalism and free market principles preclude taking action against these enemies of the state. I mean, they are literally enemies of the state.
You're so smart. You're right. I watch those Republican congressmen go, well, it's free market. You're allowed to ban whoever you want. No, you're free market. You can't say a black person can't ride the train, or a conservative. But they use that like it's free market. We're being free market. No, they're not.
Right, exactly. It's kind of akin to when the National Football League first allowed passing. It used to be that the forward pass was illegal, and then they legalized it. And imagine how bad a football team would lose if they refused to throw the ball because they said, well, passing's not part of the game. Well, what the Republicans need to understand, and what even Donald Trump himself, I don't think fully understands, is that you have to play by the new rules. They set the rules. Those are the rules of the game now. You have to play by them, or you're going to lose. Of course, they're terrified of that, which is why you see people like Ben Shapiro and David French and all the cucks complaining about how James Gunn, the Marvel director, got held accountable for all his,
wasn't that a big tell that you've got the fake conservatives defending a guy that worships pedophilia?
Exactly. But this is the.
But isn't that the litmus test? That's the litmus test. If you support pedophilia or abortion, you are the enemy.
It certainly works for me.
Keep going. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. The thing that's important to understand is that this is the same thing. What you're seeing with the fake conservative commentators in the gun situation, and what you're seeing with the Republican congressmen dealing with the big social media companies, it's exactly the same thing. They're trying to give them a pass. They're trying to say, well, we don't play the game that way. It's not right. We shouldn't play the game according to the rules. We should play the game according to the rules 50 years ago. But that doesn't work. And so let me ask you this question. We'll come back and get more into this because you're on target. Vox Day's here. Why did we brief Congressman Gates, who we knew was going to be chairing most of the committee meeting? The first hour was good luck. He got the briefing he knew, and he decided to go throw me under the bus, lie, agree to all their stuff, and then the next day they shadow banned a bunch of Republicans. Like he thought he would kiss their butt and then they would promote him. He didn't know they took that as weakness and he's seen as an enemy. I don't understand I know his daddy gave him everything, and I don't want to go on some hate Congressman Gates thing, but I know he specifically got briefed on this, Vox. We worked hard to get this report to him and the president. Trump responded, but I don't know. I guess Gates thought he was betting on the winning horse here. Well, I think there's two reasons. Number one, there's a lot of people on the right who really derive satisfaction by being more than fair to the enemy. They think that somehow was going to win them respect or something. What they don't realize. It's disgusting ingratiation. Exactly, and it's not going to work. It never works. As you said, it is showing weakness, and whenever you show weakness to the left, they come after you, and they come after you at exactly the point of weakness that you've demonstrated. And that's why it's so important for you to remain pugnacious and not back down whenever they try to whenever they try to threaten you. That's why it's so important not to apologize to SJWs whenever they're demanding an apology, not to resign, not to quit, because everything that they're doing is an attempt to demoralize, discredit, and disqualify. I'm not just saying this. It's true, because I go on my own code. And then I operate by that, and then I would admit when I made mistakes or stuff, and then they would attack that point and then build a whole system like they're blind. They only know how to attack. Well, those of us that have a compass, they think when we admit we did something wrong that, that's where they're weak at. No, we're just trying to be upright. And Vox Day is getting into the mindset of the globalist controllers and their minions. Is there any way to free their minions? Because it's easy to just be their enemy and be mad at them, but how do we ever get them out? The problem is once they give over to that system, they just progressively are given over to delusion, like the Bible says, and they're totally turned over to it. So how do we defeat that? Well, we do it with, I think, having fun, reaching out to them, showing how they've been conned, but also being strong and not buying into their system, because they're weak, they're looking for power. So when you sit there and act like you're appeasing them, it only encourages them to do it more and more and more. Here's a little piece.
The year is 1995, and Infowars launches the last of America's counter-globalist probes. In a freak mishap, Infowars.com and Alex Jones are blown out of their trajectory into an orbit which freezes his life support systems and returns Alex Jones to Earth 25 years later.
Transdimensionally over the space-time continuum through full space, where people are extremely lazy. The social engineers are there laughing. What we envisioned 100 years ago, 20 years ago, is now reality. While the society unravels, men run around totally frantic, not knowing how to be men, and women run around frantic, not knowing how to be women, and they don't understand that it's an animating contest of life, and that it's fulfilling to be informed, it's fulfilling to be involved, it's fulfilling.
Infowars, tomorrow's news today.
Now, we joke around about things like that, but if you think about a Barry Goldwater or a Ronald Reagan before he got elected president, And all the people talking about the New World Order and globalism and Donald Trump's lawyer, Cohn, who was the head of the Un-American Activities Committee, those guys were all actually right. And they weren't perfect, but they liked free market. They liked America. They weren't mad at some other guy smarter than them or better looking that was successful. They saw that as a better world for their kids. Oh, great. Wow, I admire that guy or that woman. But not these little chicken crap people. I call it the chicken you-know-what dimension. Little term I invented. And they are mad at success. Here's the thing, Vox. I don't just say this. You're a smart guy when it comes to their mindset. And what you say is real veritas. I want to get into your comics, too, and all the rest of it. And this fun piece your guys put together that we've tweeted out at Real Alex Jones. But how do you quantify the controllers and what guides them versus their minions on average? And do we waste our time trying to reach out to the minions? Does that only encourage them that, oh, look, you want me because I'm powerful when they're not? Do we just build a better world and know that they'll then see by example? Because, I mean, there's no way to perfectly quantify what I'm saying. It's so obvious once you know history and common sense that people should just join the liberty movement. But then these other people are sworn to destroy us. And it's just so stupid. Like, I don't even want to have a war with these people.
You have to show them the face of evil. You have to show them that the evil is real, that it is material, that it is not metaphorical, and that it can be resisted. At the end of the day, people are afraid. And what they respond to is seeing people who are not afraid, people who are willing to stand up and say, 2 + 2 does not equal 37. There are only two sexes. You know, the more that you stand up and speak the truth, the more that others are inspired to do the same.
That was very profound, just that 30 seconds. I wish I could crystallize it down to that, but that's true. They want to control reality. They want to make you accept things that aren't true. They want to bully you into submission. And the reason they fear and censor you and Infowars and Matt Drudge and all of us is we fear God way more than we fear them. And they can't stand the fact that we're not scared.
That's exactly true. You know, when I got involved with the campaign against the Hugo Awards called Rabid Puppies, I was initially by myself. And, you know, I'd been kicked out of the Science Fiction Writers Association. And they were trying to claim that, you know, I was just a extremist freak all on my own, et cetera, et cetera. But, you know, I reached out to John C. Wright and I asked him if he had any work that we could publish. And he said, you know, I don't know who you are. I'm not really that interested. And I explained it a little bit more. And he said, oh, you're the guy who stood up against those, you know, lunatics pushing social justice in science fiction. Absolutely, I will work with you. And so, you know, just that one act of one guy standing up with me led to another and another, you know, to the point that, you know, a lot of people have a tendency to overestimate the size of our operation and the extent of our influence.
But that's a key example, like the Bible says, what two of you agree on earth is done in heaven. It's that will and the fact that, like you said, we are the majority that want freedom and prosperity and decency and transparency and not and all this stuff, because not that we couldn't be evil and do a bunch of bad stuff. We don't want to be like that. We don't want to have a world like that. We're honorable. We have chivalry. And the fact that once you stood up and did something right, you had no idea that how popular you already were with the real thought leaders. But there were people that ran associations that were gatekeepers claiming that they were the thought leaders when all they were was people trying to steal the energy.
That's exactly what happens in the media. It's what happens in publishing. It's what happens in movies. They're constantly inflating and exaggerating their own influence and their own numbers. You know, you've probably read a little bit of SJW's Always Lie. The guy who was...
I didn't just read it. I gave it to my older daughter and son. But yeah, go ahead.
You know, there's a very important part there where the guy who was claiming to be the biggest blog in science fiction And he was believed to be the biggest blog in science fiction. I believed it. You know, he was the president of the association. Everybody talked about his blog. His books were, you know, he'd been signed to a contract by the #1 publisher. But the funny thing was, he forgot to lock down one of his traffic measures. And so I ended up discovering through one of my guys that his actual traffic was actually 1/50th of what he was broadcasting and what he was claiming and what the New York Times was reporting. And so this is very, very typical. You know,
the king has no clothes. It's like the 3 days after Hillary lost, tens of thousands of libertarian conservative sites, I'm glad they did the work to categorize this, did an 80% drop in traffic. Everybody said, how are you doing? Your traffic's all gone. And I said, actually, our traffic's up. They just, in a mythical thing, said I was losing, and everybody, and it wasn't even true, but corporations and people dropped advertising and stuff because of the fake metric.
Yeah, they lie constantly, but what's important to understand is the nature of their lies. The nature of their lies is always to exaggerate their own influence, to denigrate your influence, to lie and exaggerate about their numbers, and to try to claim that yours are much less than they are. And then overall, the most important thing that they try to do is to demoralize the right, because they know the right outnumbers them, and they're terrified of that. And so they're trying to demoralize us so that we will not resist.
Come back. Let's talk about then how you think they're going to counter-strike. Vox stays with us. I didn't realize this till like 5. I'll be sitting with my family, at my great-looking family, and I'm saying, you know, it's not a bad thing. I'm proud of this good-looking family. You know, I can skin a buck and run a trot line myself. And these little globalists come over and they look at my family and my genetic wealth and they go, F you and your family. They just, it's like, you can't help them, Vox. They are so pissed that I could kick 100 of their asses. Let's not brag, maybe 100. And I don't think I'm that tough, but they're that low. And we have to recognize how powerful we are. God, these people hate success, folks. That's what it is. They hate our will. They hate our strength. They hate our connection to God and Jesus. You know, I forget which Bible verse it is. You were neither hot nor cold. I spit you out of my mouth. We'll try to pull that up if somebody can do that. But that's the thing. You're either evil or you're good. You're either trying to be good or you're trying to be evil. People that love evil are trying to swim towards that black hole. People trying to love God, trying to like be the best they can. And if you pull back from this and you look at it and you study what the globalists are doing, they're trying to hurt people. They're trying to dumb people down. They're trying to control free will. They're trying to do everything that God's trying to fight. And they always, in sitcoms and shows, I don't even watch much TV, but man, almost anything I turn on is Revelation 3:16. So then because thou art lukewarm and neither cold nor hot, I will spit thee out of my mouth. King James Version. You pull back from this and there's no sane reason to support communism or globalism or any of this, but they do it. And I think the greatest, I'm not a Calvinist, but I think there's a truth to you have free will, but also predestined. But if you're predestined, you have to have the free will to make the decision. I think that's why so many Calvinists I know, people I've known that like invented computers and made billions and gave it all to the Salvation Army and stuff, is that people that are predestined are so guilty, they tend to get roped in by liberals in some guilt thing to then serve them in their larger agenda. And I don't know how, if I had to describe this, like some of God's greatest people pull the horses and pull the carriage of the devil. I don't know how to describe that, but it's like a psychic delusion where some of the best people are the ones empowering this whole thing, and they're upset, they're conflicted, they know they're not doing right, they know they're not making God happy, but somehow there's like a disconnect where what they're doing is being shunted around. And I think at a gut level, because during the break I was literally praying to God to understand how to defeat this, and it's getting people that love God to stop listening to the accuser, who knows they have a conscience, so tells them how bad they are so that they then serve that agenda. And I think that's the essence of the SJW. Vox Day, of all your great work, Vox University on YouTube, voxuniversity.com, Voxversity, voxday.blogspot.com, the really critical stuff. I mean, I'm kind of just all over the map here, just trying to like get into the esoterics or the hidden agenda of who these people are, because you go to a Democrat event, I mean, and I don't go to these events that feel powerful. You'll see the weird Democrats ruling over these people when you're there, and it feels pathetic, but these are like soul-sucked people. Like I know white people, I know black people, I know Hispanics, where one brother's a Christian, and he's super successful and good-looking and strong and smart, and the other brother looks just like him, but he's a leftist, and he can hardly get out of his car. It's like something is sucking their soul, Vox. We didn't pre-script this interview. I'm asking you, as you're a smart philosopher and a Christian, what do you think this is? I mean, how is it so obvious these people look like the living dead, is what I'm saying.
It's the results of corruption. You know, when your spirit is corrupted, your mind is corrupted, and it will eventually affect your body. I mean, we all understand this on a very simple level. You know, if you feel down, you don't go to the gym, you eat like crap, it makes you feel worse, and it puts you all into a spiral. Well, the same is true on the spiritual level. You know, when you sin and you give into your sin and you can't pull yourself out of it, you start to dislike yourself, you start to despise yourself. You know, and that's why one of the most important aspects of Christianity, and one that Christians often forget, is that Jesus provides hope.
And forgiveness.
And forgiveness. So it's so important to understand that you have to allow yourself to hope. You know, there's times when I get frustrated, there's times when I get down, but one thing that always helps me get back on my feet again is being reminded of the fact that we are not given a spirit of fear. You know, we don't, another saying that the guys on my blog like to use is, all we need is 12. You know, Jesus Christ didn't need a legion of soldiers, he didn't need an army, he just needed 12 guys. And that was enough to shake the world. So the fact that we don't have billions in our bank account, the fact that we don't have organizations with tens of thousands of people working for us doesn't matter. All we need is 12.
And that's all illustrated. I keep, because the average leftist goes, oh, look, you're under attack, Alex. Oh, look, all this is happening. And oh, look at Trump. No, that's because we're doing what we're supposed to. That's a sign of the success. Don't people get that? That it's not like I'm losing because they're after me. People are like, how are you taking it right now? And I'm like, man, I'm taking this really well. I mean, it's not fun physically in the flesh, but my spirit says I'm in the right direction. They don't even, like, when people don't get that, like, this freedom isn't free.
No, I know exactly what you mean. There's this moment where you feel the gut punch. You know, there's this moment where you think, oh no, you know, this is terrible. And then all of a sudden the adrenaline kicks in, and then you start thinking about why they did that, and you realize they didn't do that out of strength. They didn't do that out of confidence. They did that because I scare the crap out of them.
And let's go further. There are children, because this religion is about torturing children and sucking their life essence, begging for God on their knees right now, being tortured and raped. And we're the answer. And we're supposed to die for them if we have to. So then stop being wimps, folks. If you saw the kid being raped, wouldn't you fight for their freedom? Well, it's happening. This whole system is that. So their prayers went up to God. God reached down to the few people that are willing to fight. And so stop worrying about what they do to you. Worry if you don't take this commission. Because God isn't Congress giving some officer a commission. This is God giving you a commission. And I think people should take that commission.
A book that I would really encourage your viewers to read or to listen to the audiobook, there's a video about it on voxversity.com. It's a book called The Last Closet. And it's a book that was written by a woman who is the daughter of two very famous pagans, Walter Breen and Marion Zimmer Bradley. Marion Zimmer Bradley is probably the most influential feminist science fiction writer that has ever lived. And they were horrific child abusers. And they taught her that God did not exist. They taught her to sneer at Christianity and all that sort of thing. But the amazing thing about the story, and despite the fact that it, on the one hand, it's a psychosexual horror show, but it is also a triumph, because she talks about how
she gets free.
Even in the midst of that, she sensed that God was real, that God loved her, and that God was going to get her out of it, and he did. And and now she's a wonderful Christian woman. She's married. She's got children. She makes beautiful music. And look at the book, The Last Closet, and you will understand what is at stake here in every single one of those children's
I agree
lives.
with you. So explaining that, because I feel for the children's horror. I could feel it right now. They're called to God. What is this? How could you have a religion based on torturing children? I'm just mad at myself that I don't have the prowess it takes to just beat them now. How the hell, Vox, did we get to this point with a cult of just savage evil, because those babies are so close to God? Because we wanted to pursue what we wanted to do. We wanted to be our own gods. We wanted to pursue our lives of pleasure. We wanted to do our drugs and have our sex and all that sort of thing. And I'm just as guilty of that as anybody else. But you have to look beyond that. You have to look beyond what your will is and start to try to understand what God's will is. And that's when the change happens. And that is the change that they fear happening in everybody's life. Exactly, because the Satanist,
you've escaped them.
The devil takes your will, but God, you have to give your will over willingly, and God just doesn't do it automatically. It takes a long time before people even get into God's will, but it is that they fear. You're absolutely right, Vox.
Well, that's why Christianity has always been the enemy of the world, and that's why it's so ironic that they try to mock us by saying, well, people don't approve of you. People are laughing at you. The world rejects you. And that's what we want. That's what we should be pursuing. When we are getting attacked, when we are getting rejected, then we know that we are over the target. Then we have confidence that we're doing the right thing.
We're coming right back. We'll do 5 more minutes. And I'm not bragging, because it's almost embarrassing. When they offered me starring roles in Hollywood and multi-million-dollar contracts, they couldn't believe when I turned it down, because it was like they were giving me their God. And then once I turned it down, it went from kind of like halfway I wanted to do it to like a joke. I mean, once I turned it all down, I was like, of course I turned it down. The spirit was broken. Fixed. It's up to you. Vox, you've really impressed me. I'm not just saying that because I am somebody who just tries to seek after the truth and find out what's happening. And I look at the people that serve this system. They are anti-human. They are anti-God. They're anti-success. They're losers. They're like a cancer, like you said. So what do you expect him to do now? Do you agree with me that I think this last few days there's been a major turning point spiritually where they've gone into pure horror mode? And I want to respect their demonic power. I don't support it or like it, but I don't want to be confident like they are. I want to be meek and humble and focused and ready with my guns up, politically ready. But at the same time, I know I can't do it all. It's God. What is the essence of what you're trying to say to listeners and viewers about where we are at this jump point in history?
Where we are is just past the peak of the evil pendulum, in my opinion. For the past 200 years, if you look at Robert Prechter's socioeconomic theory, things have continued to proceed towards what they call openness.
We just went over the top.
Yes, we just went over the top, and we are just beginning to swing back. And so that means that all the openness, all the free trade, all the no borders, all the mixed race this and multiracial that, all of that is going to reverse, and it's going to hard reverse. And so Europe is a little bit ahead of the U.S. right now. The nationalists are on the rise.
The Generation Z is on fire with that. They already pick it up. It's done.
Oh, there's no question. You know, I play soccer at a club. I'm obviously quite old, so I play with the veterans. But the way that works here, all the different ages have the different teams that are part of the same club. And I would say that of the sort of 18 to 25-year-old crowd, they almost uniformly would be classified as really hard right. I mean, to the extent that they kind of make me blink a little bit. And so the nationalism is on the rise everywhere. No,
exactly. I'm in airports and stuff, and like good-looking black kid, white kid, Hispanic kid would come over and like checks me on something I said that I wasn't, and I don't put them down for it. It's orthodoxy. They're like really trying to be pure.
Oh yeah, I mean, I love it when people are getting on my case and they're saying, you know, Vox, you're too much of a cuck, you're too soft, and it's invariably somebody who's 20 or has no idea how extreme I am considered, among my generation.
Well, and they don't understand that, they don't know what comes with it.
But it's fine, and it's encouraging. I love to see it. You see the way that the French national team, the globalists tried to make a big push for, oh, isn't this great? Isn't this multicultural? And the memes just. The anti-globalist, anti-multicultural memes just absolutely swarmed them, and it was a beautiful thing to see.
Exactly, and it's not like some man marries a woman from a different culture, and it's beautiful. That's great. It's that it's forced, and that they don't want people to assimilate. I want to do 5 more minutes with you on the other side and ask what you think of Donald Trump, and I want your real assessment, because I haven't figured Trump out yet. My gut tells me he's good. My spirit does. He's delivered on so many fronts, but I really think Donald Trump is, I actually know, Donald Trump is like an oracle. He's not even there. Donald Trump is like, I don't know how to quantify it or describe it, but Donald Trump is like basically like a psychic precog. He's just the will of the people. It's something very special about Trump. He's definitely, though, autistic. I've been around 44 years, almost 45, you count the 9 months of my mother's womb. And by the time I was like 15, 16, I learned like my gut's never wrong. I mean, I'd be like walking out of a department store with my mom and about to go meet my friends, and I'd like get ready for a fight, and the guys come around the corner, trying to rob us. I learned my gut was never wrong very young, but I didn't follow it till about 5, 6 years ago. So when my gut comes out and says, I didn't tell you guys, put that picture up, that's me at 21. I'm not like trying to know all the answers in the universe. I've just learned that we already have all the answers. So Vox Day's here with us. We'll talk about something about his comic book that he's launching. We're like, oh, comic books. No, that's the seed, as he said, the antecedent to the movies, the culture, the archetypes. We'll talk about that some before our next guest host takes over, Nick Begich, Dr. Nick Begich, such a pioneer. And we did tweet out a little special thing there folks did of me in a kind of a metamorphosized archetype there of the warrior. Now live, best-selling comic author, editor, and video game designer Vox Day joins today's broadcast to explain his pro-West work, including the SJW-free alternative to their garbage comics and their cult. But Trump, the paradox, because quite frankly, Trump can get his feelings hurt. And Trump does see a lot of the show, and none of us are perfect. But I've always noticed that Trump can get manipulated into something, but then he always turns around later, and he has this underdog thing as a billionaire. He's one of the only self-made billionaires out there. His dad was a big John Birch Society guy. I knew that from sources, then looked it up. It was the New York Times like 30 years ago that, he would like go beat up, communists and stuff in like the 50s, kind of like John Wayne would do. But I don't want to lionize Trump. I think he is very interesting and obviously very intuitive, very connected, very dialed in and pro-human. And they fear him so much. But then I've talked to Trump a lot, many times, and it's like he finishes the sentences before you make them. And it's very actually frightening. And then they're calling him an idiot. And let me tell you something. If Trump is bad, he can deceive my spirit, and I've never had my gut be wrong, my spirit. So my spirit says, get behind Trump. From the time he ran, I just said, I just have to get behind him. And I've not been given some delusion. I love God. I love the babies. I love the children. But at the same time, even the elect could be deceived, as they say in Revelation. So, Vox, what do you say about Trump and who he is? Because a lot of Christians say, well, he's not perfect because, you know, he's a wrecking ball. Well, he never said he didn't like women or whatever. You know, he's not screwing kids. There's nothing to that. It's like, I'm trying to, like, quantify who is Trump? Who is this guy?
He's a man with a mission. He's a man with a mission. I see him as very similar to the Apostle Paul. I think that he had a road to Damascus experience, except that instead of seeing the face of Jesus, I think that he saw the face of evil. And
By the way, you just impressed me again. I've talked to people a year before Politico published it about him in Scotland for a year. He was worldly and still loved his dad and didn't know if it was true and then he had this huge experience. It's funny. Were you told this? Did you know this, Fox?
No, I just observed it.
Well, I will reveal here that Trump was haunted for 2 years, had nightmares, you name it. I was told this by people very close to the president. And that he wasn't, it wasn't that he was anti-Christian. He was just his own guy and thought everything was BS. He had a road to Damascus experience, but it was accompanied first by massive demonic assault.
But part of that assault was he was given the opportunity to become part of the evil elite that you talk about a lot. You know, they were welcoming, they tried to welcome him into it, and he rejected it. And I think this is fairly common knowledge. He banned Brian Epstein from
And do you know what he told me? I'll hold you next time I have to, but this is so powerful. Trump said the energy. He said, Christians, the energy, Alex, it's so pure, it's so good. And it was like, I was like talking like an autistic person. And I was like, what do you mean, Mr. President-elect? And Mr. President goes, well, it's just the Christians are so good. I just want Christians to be able to be free. And I said, sir, I'm not on some big agenda on the whole First Amendment deal. I believe in it, but I get there. And he kept saying he definitely had that conversion about 3 years before he ran. And Vox, very intuitive what you said, because I've never told that on air. I'm sorry, I'm ranting. Go ahead.
Well, when you look at the things that he said during the campaign, when he talked about how I will take the arrows for you, he understood the risks that he was taking. He understood that he was setting himself up against the evil powers of the world.
But what does that say about him? Because the average globalist would just take energy. He recognized Christ's energy as the best thing he never had, and he never really had it till he was like 65 years old. That's what I'm saying. What was that?
But it's even more significant than that, because if you look at what he is doing and what he has said and what he's willing to do, you know, he is literally willing to lay down his career, his life, his legacy, everything, in order to try to set the American people free.
And you just said it 2 years ago.
And that's love.
2 years ago, that's what I said on air. I'm not going to get into private conversations. He said, he goes, I don't care. I'm just going to follow this no matter. I know it's the answer. Just like Kanye West said when they met. Those two are like mine. He said that, Vox. He said, I'm going to follow this. I don't care where it goes. I'm not thinking about it anymore. I'm just going with this.
And that's why the powers of the world fear him, because what he is following is antithetically opposed to them. And what he is following, whether he understands it or not, is apparently the will of God. And that's why so many Christians respond so powerfully and so emotionally to him. You know, I mean, you know, I predicted the Trump slide. You can see this was an old Trump slide 2016 shirt. You know, I believe that he was going to win from the moment that I heard him taking that, frankly, very Christ-like position, which coming from a worldly playboy like himself.
Well, let's take Melania. She is a real Christian. I mean, and like a Bible thumper, she loves God, and like she did that, you know, famous prayer she did, the Lord's Prayer up there I mean, that's what this is. And we're not just saying this. That's why they're so scared, is that we've got somebody who isn't worshiping himself. He's already had everything, and he's dialed into that.
And more importantly, he's not a fraud. He's not a fake like the Bushes were. You know, the Bushes purported to be, you know, Christians too and that sort of thing. But nothing that they did ever really struck me as being genuine.
I agree. Let's do one more segment, and I'm going to just shut up, give you the floor for the next segment, and then I really appreciate Dr. Nick Begich, former senator, brother, congressman, father, great page for expose the whole paradigm. He's coming up for 2 segments after that. But what Vox is saying is, I don't want to reveal too much here on air, but I mean, I can just tell you right now that Trump did have a Road to Damascus event 2 years, I say 5 years, but it was now, but it's been 3 years since the campaign started. He had a Road to Damascus event, and exactly what you said. And Trump was like, none of this fulfills me. Hollywood, all these things are fake. I've already conquered all these things, and it's not real. He said, I mean, I'll tell you the big secret. Trump says, hey, can we go to black churches? Someone asked Vox Day that question when we come back. Like, people on the campaign and the new campaign go, Trump goes, hey, I want to go to black churches. And they go, why? And he goes, I've never felt so much energy as a black church. And it's not some condescending thing. Trump loves black churches. What does that say? He literally asked to be directed to them. What does that mean? All right, Vox Day's got to go. He's got to take care of his family and stuff. And we've got Dr. Nick Begich taking over. But I was just getting into the fact that Trump doesn't go, oh, I love Jesus. Oh, are you a good Christian? Do you love the Lord? All that kind of stuff. Talking to me and others, he's like, oh, I really love these churches and the energy. It's so good. It's better than a rock concert. And you're like hearing that, but it's like God, he's resonating with that energy. So just in closing, we'll get you back very soon. Talk about Alt Hero, Crackdown. We're selling. This is great for kids. One of the only libertarian, conservative, pro-patriot, pro-Western comic books out there. It's amazing. Very honored to be selling that. Infowarsstore.com, Vox Day. But just in closing, it's not a Trump grovel fest. You know a man by his enemies. I just gave you the intel from behind the scenes stuff about Trump particularly liking black churches. And that's got a lot of connotations to it. But just what do you make of that?
Well, I think that Trump just loves people who are filled with the Holy Spirit and love the Lord. And it calls to him. And you know, I've certainly seen that, and I've seen that in black churches. I've seen that in Italian churches. You know, the more expressive a people are, often the more uplifting it is. And I expect that sort of thing really appeals to the president in his heart.
All right, they're trying to censor your comic book, but it's still been #1 on Amazon. People can buy it there if they want, Infowarsstore.com. But come back and let's talk about the cultural revolution against them that's going. In 60 seconds, you agree they're in trouble, they're desperate, they're scared. Let's not be too confident. What do they launch? I think false flags to make themselves victims, which is why I think it was wrong. I did the whole joke about Mueller and shooting him, which I said it's a joke. It's not real. It's metaphorical. They still edited it out to kind of say do that. They're the ones calling for violence. What are you concerned about?
I'm actually more focused on what's going to happen to folks on the financial side. I think that's an obvious point of vulnerability, and that's why I'm glad to see that Trump and his administration are starting to look at big social and to look at the payment processors and that sort of thing, because that is going to be one of the primary focuses of attack.
Absolutely. I mean, you've had Bill Maher, all of them say what we already knew, crash the economy to stop America's recovery. If that isn't treason, if that isn't espionage, so what does the president do? We don't want him to be a dictator. We want him to have the will of the people and Constitution. But what do you do when you've got multinationals, Chi-Com, openly funded, Chinese president, dictator goes to Davos, says, don't worry, we're working with Hollywood, we'll F America over it. I mean, you know, we're like chumps if we put up with that.
Exactly. He's doing the right thing. And the Chinese respect that. You know, I was on Chinese English language television in March, and you know, they really respect the fact that Trump is the first president to actually be representing American interests. And so the more that he speaks the truth and the more that he stands strong, the better position that Americans are going to be.
All right, Vox Day, thanks for the time. We really appreciate you. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Alex.
And that's it. our media says the Chi-Coms hate us, and our media says all this, they are like, Putin, everybody are like, we have Russian interest, we have American interest, we actually like this, we want human interest. But the globalists, they want dysfunction, they want failure, they want poverty, they want control. And somebody who spearheaded this with his father was a famous congressman, and of course his brother was a U.S. senator, but in his own right he's a best-selling author, and I think more successful than his father and his brother. I didn't mean to mention the accolades of his genetic compass, but Dr. Nick Begich is here taking over right now. Where would you say exposing, up front the whole spy grid, the whole shadow system, but if we got leaders in charge that wanted to use technology to empower people instead of enslaving people, I think the stars are the limit. And, there's time enough for love. There's time enough for anything. Once we beat that, it's not some Valhalla. It's not some nirvana. It's not some utopia we're offering like all the communists do. It's a real human experience chance. So go ahead and take over. Of course, earthpulse.com. Find your books and videos. We love you. We appreciate you as a trailblazer, all this. But how would you quantify the cultural, the economic, the spiritual moment we're at right now?
This is the moment I think we've all been waiting for. This is the turning point where we really have an opportunity to see this thing change in a different direction. And I think that's where we're at. And, you and I worked together a really long time. I was thinking about this. We started about the same time in the early 90s, moving an agenda forward that really transfers power back to the governed, which is the government, when you really think about it. And all of this political correctness is stifling speech. The idea of controlling speech, I find the most disheartening thing, because what we're offered now is a chance to reclaim the territory of personal privacy, which now extends into the digital doorway, past our physical doorways, and all of our digital doorways.
And notice just the debate about that is killing Facebook today.
Yes, indeed. And as it should, because institutions that take on the ability to have open, free, absolutely free dialogue, even when what someone is saying might be repugnant to us, whether it be on the left or the right, we need to be able to say that the right to speak, the right to articulate our arguments can't be infringed, especially in a digital world where our life is. I mean, think about it. What's in your house is very little in terms of the information about you.
Not letting us on the digital system is like not providing oxygen to somebody.
Right. I mean, it's so fundamental. It's the very first thing spoken about in the First Amendment is freedom of speech, freedom of assembly. The modern assembly is, in fact, the internet. To infringe that is to step in the middle of every adversarial voice.
And notice how it's blowing up in their face that they would assault it.
Absolutely. And this is the real market factors when you recognize them. They don't just exist in economies, where they exist in
ideas first.
Exactly right. Fundamental government springs from us, the people, the human souls. We decide collectively how it's shaped, how it's formed, and globalists hate this. The elite hates this. And they set up institutions that they call democratic that aren't even democratic. Think about the EU, the European Union, the European Parliament. Nobody elects a single person there, and they call that a democratic institution. Give me a break. This is representation.
And run by the grandson of the most powerful Nazis. I mean, it's literally insane. You're taking over right now, but Dr. Nick Begich is our guest, earthpulse.com hosting. I appreciate you letting me take a few segments. We love you. And this is a real magic moment right now that we've entered right now. I mean, because let me tell you, this is humanity coming up for air before the riptide sucks us down for a while. And I can tell you this, I'm sure of it politically, spiritually, psychically. We're going to get pulled down real deep for a while. Everybody better be getting there.
Right before the storm.
You agree?
Right before the storm. I totally agree. It's right there at the threshold, and now is the time.
So folks better get right with God. They better get air, because we're going down. We're going to take a deep dive into this stuff, and it's going to be bad. But those of us that make it on the other side, I'm sure I probably won't be there, and it won't matter, because the ideas go forward. It's like electricity. You can't stop it. Dr. Nick Begich, back in 3 minutes on this How This Break. Earthpulse.com, Infowars.com, Newswars.com. Stay on target. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
And welcome back to Infowars.com. And this is Dr. Nick Begich, and I'm standing in for this last few segments of today's broadcast. And I really appreciate Alex as a disruptor. And that's how I would categorize a lot of us. We're disruptors. We kind of walk into the middle of the room and present new information that sort of puts a wrench in your bicycle spokes of the New World Order as it's going downhill at a pretty high velocity. And I totally appreciate that about Alex. And I get comments, I read all the comments, and sometimes when he and I are on, we're both so excited about what we're talking about that, we kind of run over each other a little bit. And people sometimes get critical of that and really don't, because this is the nature of a disruptor at our core. We get excited and we just can't help ourselves. And that's just the nature of it. And this is what needs to be preserved in the idea of freedom of speech. True freedom of speech means that the engagement happens on the platform of the 21st century. And this is what's being attacked. That's why Facebook's stock is plunging today, as people with a different political view than the owners are saying, you know what, we're not spending our time, effort, or energy with you if you cannot recognize our right to be and to speak and to do those things that we feel are important to us. And I think that's what's more important to preserve. I travel a lot all over the world. I spend a good bit of time in Europe, and what I see in Europe is the result of political speech and the backlash of that suppression that they call tolerance in this liberal left-wing sort of view of, we're so tolerant, we're so generous with our generosity of tolerance. Tolerance, and I've said this before, is self-violence, because you're suppressing your truth. That's a violent act against yourself, against divinity, if you believe you're created in the image and likeness of God. It's just as bad as attacking someone else. Only it's an internal feeding to shut down your ability to speak unless you're speaking for an established order that tells you what to parrot. Whether it's the left or the right, quite frankly, this is what we need to guard against, is that true freedom of speech is saying what we believe is right and true in a respectful way that doesn't incite violence, but incites dialogue. That was the whole point. Freedom of the press and freedom of speech were not the fundamentals of the First Amendment for no reason. They were to infuse, to invigorate public debate and public dialogue that takes us to deeper conclusions that represent the true American character. And they don't happen by us, having our own civil wars every 15 minutes. No, they happen by recognition and respect, not some artificial thing called tolerance, but respect and acceptance of an opposing view, even if it's repugnant to you, and the right to say it. Because once you start deciding what the level of acceptability is, the whole thing collapses. Because then it's just one more slippery slope down the slippery slope of a really different kind of government. And they're using nationalism, fighting in our own individual self-interest as reflected within our cultures, within our countries. And right now, globalism is certainly the hope of God, that we all come together sometime. But we're not there, ladies and gentlemen, and anyone who thinks we are at this moment is deluded. The fact is our cultures are very different. The way we perceive the world is very different. And that has not changed right away, and it won't change for probably a few more hundred years. But the reality is, we are a very different population. America has gone from a country of example where we did our own thing and only came out of our box when we were threatened, truly threatened. Now we're engaged in everyone's affair, and people are upset about Russia's engagement, perhaps in busting Hillary's server and the Democrat servers. Personally, I don't find it as big a problem as a lot of others, because we do it to over 120 countries all the time. We even tap our national leaders of our allies. Merkel was being tapped, all of them. And why is now we're so self-righteous about this because Russia's doing it. How naive are we? You know, if we don't think Russia's doing this and China's doing this, and even Israel and every other major power, the French, the British, the U.S., Germany, everyone is using their technology for their own nationalistic advantage. If they're not, they're working against people that elected them. And that's where we ended that last segment with Alex, was the EU, European Parliament. We hear them quoted all the time. The European Commission quoted all the time. These are appointed people. Nobody elected them. They are not the voice of the people by any stretch of the imagination. They are the voice of the elite. The same as the UN, the biggest bribery cooking operation in the world, operating out of New York with mostly our money. Another group, nobody elected, they're all appointed, telling the rest of the world what to do. I'm sorry, fundamentally, it does not reach the level of democracy in a republic that I embrace as an American at all. In fact, it flies in the face of what I believe government springs from the people, and this does not. This springs from the elite of the elite. And, you know, and I got 3 generations in government, right? My dad was a congressman. My brother was a mayor and a U.S. senator. My other brother's a state senator. And one of my brothers is running for governor right now here in Alaska. So, I mean, we've seen it from pre-statehood, from what it's like to be a territory, all the way through the evolution of a state, which we're in the middle of, way behind a lot of my brethren around the United States. But having said all that, now is the time to stand up, to preserve speech, and use your economic power as citizens to do that. We're seeing it with Facebook. Maybe this will wake up people to the idea that speech needs to be protected. And then on the backside of this, from these big operators, personal privacy, your digital doorway belongs to us individually, and here's how I think it should work, is my opinion. We shouldn't be allowed to opt in or opt out of anything that invades our privacy. It ought not to be allowed to be asked. In other words, the average person who might not be as well informed on how all this electronics actually works shouldn't even be able to say, yeah, I give up my freedom. No. No one should ask an American or any human being to give up their basic rights of what we're born with. No government gives this to us. This is the foundation of who we are. Right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. How many people, even in the West now, actualize that reality? That's our foundation that we need to grab back right now, not lose more of in a digital doorway kick-in. Because that's what's happened. Our digital doorways of our homes have all simultaneously been kicked in by government, by commercial interests, exploiting who we are individually at such a level, it changes everything about everything. And we wrote about this almost 20 years ago and said, here's what's coming. And it's not some predictive model. It was just taking 600 or 700 documents and distilling them down. And that's the nature of our work. Footnote everything, lay it out, and you can project what's going because it's their roadmap. You know, other publications that lay it out really clearly. Read Technology Review from MIT and see where the technology trends are going and where the debates are. Read Foreign Affairs, which is the Insider Journal, the Trilateral Commission's journal. Read it. It's at every library in the country. Find out what the game plan is. You get a lot more insight as to what's coming and how it's being organized. And in the remaining segments, I want to talk a little bit about some of that, some of the Federal Reserve issues that Rand Paul brings up. I want to talk about China and India and some of the things happening there, and sort of how the whole thing of income taxes and the Federal Reserve and all of this sort of evolved and has taken over and has taken the liberty and the freedom that we deserve as Americans and as human souls in the world today. So we'll be right back. We've got a few commercial breaks. Support this network. This is Dr. Nick Begich with Infowars. And welcome back to Infowars.com. And I'm standing in this last segment for Alex Jones. And, you know, when we left off, I was talking about these unelected groups that somehow think they represent us. And you know, I've done a lot of work, as I said, in Europe and around the world. So I see a lot firsthand. And I watched the euro come in and what people were really saying about that, and sort of that was in the 90s. And then kind of what's happened since is people's economy has literally been hijacked. And I was listening to the segment earlier today where they had a blip on there from Rand Paul talking about bringing the troops home, talking about the budgets, and the tax issues. You think about what Trump has done already, the tax issues, consumer confidence, stock market, all the big measures, unemployment across all of the ethnic groups. We're seeing all those improvements. And then I saw a recent one with tax receipts are down, but I don't think we've seen the full measure of that. Let's wait and see how that all rolls up. But when I start thinking about things that are happening that are going to affect us on the long range, like in the EU, getting NATO to pay their bills and belly up to the bar and get some money on the table. I'm talking to a friend of mine who's staff in the European Parliament, been there over 20 years, and the insight that this person brought to me in a 3 or 4 hour conversation, just as this was happening in Brussels a few weeks ago. And it was interesting, an insider who comes originally from Eastern Europe. This person has a undergraduate in economics, a master's in economics, and a doctorate in economics, and very smart person. And the basic view expressed there was, yeah, Europe ought to pay its own bills. And Trump used the number 90%. We're paying 90%. The actual number, according to the insiders on this, for NATO alone, not the whole of Europe, which might be closer to 90% for the U.S., it's about 67% for NATO, which is not the right number. It's truly not the right number. I mean, are we 67% of Europe's action? I don't think so. Now, what did they just do in this trade agreement? One of the things Trump called them on was, hey, you're beating us up over our relationship with Moscow, but you're getting 70% of your natural gas and lights to keep the lights on in Germany from Moscow. So why aren't you buying U.S. natural gas? Because we happen to be exporting it. And if you watch the news the last couple of days, they are. And if you watch our earlier segments on Alaska natural gas and Alaska mineral resources, I urge you to go back because they're on YouTube. They're very easy to find. These are the real meaty issues of balanced trade. Now we get the report, except for automobiles, we're going to get to zero trade barriers on both sides. Hey, right on. And they're up on the screen, 96%. There's the number. 67%, the real number, not 90. And this is important because maybe it should be more like maybe 20% or 15%. I mean, how much of our interest is really in Europe? Who should pay that bill? See, that's the next thing that I think Trump can address is the defense budget from the standpoint of what is America's interest and what isn't. Look at the foreign base situation, 850 bases and stations around the world. And we're upset that Russia has one in Syria. Come on, man. Get real. This is the point. Nobody pays attention. Oh, look what the other guy's doing. You got a little piece of dust in your eye. Well, the other guy's got the pole in their eye, right? This is the story of the media in the 21st century. Oh, wait, look over here. And, the defense budget is the big elephant in the room. And we also need to measure it against relative productivity, not dollars anymore. Because when we measure dollars like against China or Russia, China, you get 10 times more productivity. So they spend 1/10 as much money. Well, that kind of makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, because what you're looking for is how many battleships do you get, how many aircraft carriers and submarines and missiles. It's the output that matters, not the input of dollars, which is just a medium between productive resources, which gets me into the meat of the next piece of this, which is the money. Think about what China and India are doing with the money. They're going electronic. So you're going to see the first big populations, a couple billion plus, go electronic money. And I'm not talking Bitcoin because they're shutting that down in these countries. They're taking digital images of face, eyes, and fingerprints. And the reason they do all three in India is because some people have literally worn their fingerprints off, or they have cataracts and eye diseases where you can't get an iris scan. So they do all three. And they got 1.1 billion of the population, the last read I made a few months ago, done. And a couple 100 million that are still ghosts in the system because you can't get on social systems, welfare programs, or any of the things that voting, any of it in India without being in that digital system now. So that's the beginning of the mark, if you will, for those that know what I'm talking about. The next is China, which is doing social scoring in addition to controlling every aspect of their economy. And this is something people need to also recognize is capitalism is not something, an attribute of democracy. Capitalism is a system of economics separate from government. So the communist Chinese have adopted a capitalistic economic system to lay underneath their system of government, which is a squishy collective, whatever they want to call it, but it's a different way of looking at governance, because it's not a democracy. They have the illusion of it, like the EU has the illusion of it and the UN has the illusion of it, but they really represent a different block of elites. And the corruption level in China and India is so off the charts that part of this anti-corruption move is to shut down the leakage in their economies and gain control of it. Because once they do, under the guise of we're stamping out corruption, which people support that concept, what they don't realize is in giving up freedom, they gain perhaps a stamp out on corruption. But, this is, again, getting into the issue of, okay, how do you spend your money and how do you develop your economy and what is an economy? And this is where the bankers come into the play. And, we're going to be out of time today before we get into the real meat of it. But I want to talk about just the foundations of it. So income, taxing human beings, our labor, that was what the Civil War in the 1860s was fought about. And then it was determined that taxing a person's labor was unconstitutional in 1894 by the United States Supreme Court. Most people don't realize this. It took a constitutional amendment to tax our labor. And when they created the income tax at the same time, they gave huge breaks to corporations, to the elites of the day. The railroad barons, all of these guys who were doing minerals and oil and gas, they got a thing called depletion allowance, which in an earlier segment I described pretty in detail. But this gave them a 50% basic tax break when they do their bottom line calculations. So when they lowered the corporate rate for all corporations to 20% effectively for oil and gas and minerals, it's half of that. 10%, like a sales tax in some parts of the country right now, and that's what they pay. Which, I'm not saying good, bad, or indifferent, but let's be honest about it. They're depleting public resources, not private resources, and depletion allowances should not apply to public resources at all. And this aberration in the tax code that now is over 100 years old needs to be extracted from the code and recognized for what it is. The biggest loophole that you can drive a semi through, but complicated enough so the average person doesn't get it. This is the hijacking that still takes place. And if you want to stop the leakage now, you've got tax reform that created a playing field that's very different. We're taxing our multinational corporations for their overseas revenues. Great. Now we can take the next level to stamp out depletion allowances on public resources so they don't apply anymore. And we get the full tax load that's intended, that's fair and reasonable for public resources that are being exploited mostly by companies that aren't even domiciled here. And we've covered that in past segments under minerals and oil and gas. And look at those past segments and spread those around. I mean, that's the nature of Infowars.com. It is an info war. The fact is, good information, fact-driven information, even drawing it from their sources so that we can reframe the debate to represent what we need in democratic republics like ours. When we start pulling back, as Rand Paul has suggested, our troops from these foreign lands and adventures without declared wars that are in fact the constitutional purview of the Congress, and none of these policing actions or regime change actions have been declared wars. Now, when you do a regime change, which is kind of like a polite way of saying, we don't like your government, so we're going to get rid of them. Now, we used to do that with a big club and a cannon, and now we do it all different ways. But if this isn't meddling in your campaign, I don't know what is. And this is the state of the world today. The fake news points at Russia as if there's some aberration. They're doing very little compared to what the U.S. budget supports. And there's a way of looking at the world that needs to empower us as individuals. That's what Infowars.com is about. Check me out at earthpulse.com. That's where my stuff is. But this is the network to support Infowars.com. Get on board, be part of the new revolution, the revolution that's going to change this country and awaken the rest of our brothers and sisters in this nation. Thanks for